At the family dinner, my wife's mother said, "Nobody needs your money or you." My wife agreed. I stayed silent, only quietly doing things. They never expected the snow had started falling around 4 that afternoon. Soft, deliberate flakes that turned the world outside into something hushed and expectant. By the time we sat down for dinner, the windows were frosted at the edges, and the silence of the snowfall had somehow crept inside the house too. I remember thinking how beautiful the table looked. Rebecca, my wife, had spent hours setting it. White linen napkins folded into swans, china that belonged to her grandmother, candles that smelled like pine and cinnamon. Her mother, Patricia, sat at the head of the table like a queen presiding over her court. Her father, Donald, to her right. Rebecca's younger sister, Melissa, across from us with her husband, Craig, and then Rebecca and me, side by side but somehow miles apart. If you've ever been in a room where you can feel the temperature drop not from the weather, but from what people aren't saying, you know what that dinner felt like. Every clink of silverware against china sounded too loud. Every sip of wine felt like it was being judged, measured, weighed against some invisible standard I didn't know existed until I'd already failed it. I'd been married to Rebecca for 8 years, together for 10. In that decade, I'd learned to read the subtle shifts in her family's dynamics, the way a sailor learns to read the sky before a storm. Patricia's tight smile, Donald's careful neutrality, Melissa's quick, nervous glances. They were all there that night, those little tells, but I was too focused on my own discomfort to understand what they meant. "More wine, anyone?" I asked, reaching for the bottle. Patricia's hand shot out, not quite slapping mine away, but close enough. "I'll pour," she said, her voice carrying that particular blend of sweetness and arsenic she'd perfected over the years. "You've already been quite generous with it tonight, Daniel." I'd had one glass, one, but I smiled. I always smiled. That was my role in this family, the outsider who smiled through everything, who made himself smaller and quieter so that everyone else could be bigger and louder. The guy who picked up the check at restaurants and stayed silent when the conversation turned to family history I wasn't part of, family jokes I didn't understand, family resentments I had somehow inherited through marriage. "I was just thinking," Melissa said, her voice bright in that forced way that meant she was trying to fill the silence, "about that trip we took at these Hamptons when we were kids. Remember, Becca? When Dad rented that huge house and we spent the whole summer there?" Rebecca's face softened. "God, yes, that was magical. We should do something like that again," Melissa continued, looking around the table but somehow skipping right over me. "A big family trip, just us. Just us." I felt Rebecca shift beside me. Not away from me, exactly, but not toward me either. She was holding herself very still, the way you do when you're trying not to take sides, but your silence is a side all its own. "That would be lovely," Patricia said, setting down her wine glass with a precise little click. "Though, of course, it would be expensive. Not all of us have the luxury of unlimited resources." There it was, the first needle. Patricia never went straight for the kill. She liked to make a show of it, to lay the groundwork, to let you know what was coming even if you couldn't quite see the blade yet. "Mom," Rebecca said softly, a warning that had no teeth. "What? I'm simply stating facts." Patricia smiled at me, her eyes cold despite the warmth of the candlelight. "Daniel understands. He's always been very practical about money. Haven't you, Daniel? Practical. As if my practicality, my insistence on budgets, on savings, on not bleeding money on luxury cars and designer handbags and spontaneous trips to Europe was some kind of moral failing. As if the fact that I'd grown up with a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on had given me some kind of deficiency they could all see but were too polite to name directly. Except tonight, apparently, they weren't feeling polite. "I just think," Patricia continued, warming to her theme now, "that family should be about more than just transactions, more than someone keeping score of who paid for what." My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. "I've never kept score." "Haven't you?" She tilted her head, her expression one of theatrical sympathy. "All those little comments about expenses, about being responsible, as if the rest of us are children who can't manage our own finances." "That's not," I started, but Rebecca's hand found my knee under the table. Squeezing once. A warning. Don't. So I didn't. I set down my fork. I took a breath. I smiled that smile I'd perfected over 8 years of marriage. The one that said everything was fine, even when it wasn't. The one that made me easy to live with and even easier to dismiss. Donald cleared his throat, his own discomfort obvious. The roast is excellent, Rebecca. Really exceptional. Thank you, Daddy, Rebecca said, shooting him a grateful look. But Patricia wasn't done. I could feel it. The way you can feel thunder coming even before you hear it. She had that look in her eyes, that particular gleam that meant she'd decided something, reached some conclusion, and now we were all going to be subjected to the verdict. I've been thinking, she announced, as if this were a casual thought and not something she'd clearly been rehearsing, about Rebecca's birthday next month. Rebecca brightened. Oh, I'd like to throw you a party, a real one, at the club, something elegant, something worthy of you. Patricia paused, letting that sink in. Then she looked at me, and I knew what was coming. I knew it the way you know the ending of a movie you've seen before. Just family, of course. Intimate. The way these things should be. Just family. You're not invited, Daniel, but you are not family, Daniel. 8 years. 8 years of Christmases and Thanksgivings and birthdays. 8 years of writing checks and making nice and trying to fit into a family that had apparently decided long ago that I would never quite measure up. And now this final polite exile. I waited for Rebecca to say something, to protest, to remind her mother that I was her husband, that we came as a package, that you couldn't just erase me with a seating chart and a guest list. But Rebecca said nothing. She looked down at her plate. She moved her food around with her fork. And she said absolutely nothing. The snow kept falling outside. The candles flickered. Somewhere in the house, a clock ticked. That sounds lovely, Mom, Rebecca finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Melissa shifted uncomfortably. Craig suddenly became very interested in his wine. Donald studied the ceiling as if the secrets of the universe were written there. And Patricia smiled. Wonderful, she said. I'll start making arrangements tomorrow. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of forced conversation and careful silences. I ate without tasting. I nodded when it seemed appropriate. I even laughed once or twice at jokes I didn't find funny, because that's what I did. That's what I'd always done, but something was shifting inside me. Something cold and quiet and very, very calm. When dessert came, some elaborate chocolate thing that Rebecca had probably spent hours making, Patricia took her first bite and made a small noise of displeasure. Too bitter, she said, setting down her fork. You used dark chocolate, didn't you? I've told you, Rebecca, dark chocolate is too severe for dessert. It should be milk chocolate, softer, sweeter. Rebecca's face fell. I'm sorry, I thought. It's fine, Patricia interrupted, in that way that meant it wasn't fine at all. We can't all have refined palates. Some people are naturally more attuned to these things. I watched my wife shrink, watched her apologize for a dessert that was absolutely perfect, watched her accept her mother's criticism as if it were objective truth rather than the cruel opinion of someone who seemed to take pleasure in finding fault. And something inside me, some final thread of patience or hope or whatever you want to call it, snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, just snapped. The dessert is perfect, I said quietly. Everyone looked at me. I never contradicted Patricia. I never spoke up. I was the silent one, the accommodating one, the one who kept the peace by keeping quiet. Excuse me, Patricia said. The dessert, I repeated, meeting her eyes. It's perfect. Rebecca worked hard in it, and it's delicious. The temperature in the room dropped another 10 degrees. Patricia's smile didn't waver, but something in her eyes hardened. Well, she said slowly, I suppose everyone's entitled to their opinion, even when they're wrong. Yes, I agreed. I suppose they are. Rebecca's hand found my knee again, but this time it wasn't a warning. It was almost afraid, as if she knew that something had changed but didn't know what yet, didn't know what it would mean. The dinner ended shortly after that. Coats were collected, good nights were exchanged. Patricia hugged Rebecca and even managed a stiff nod in my direction. Donald clapped me on the shoulder with the kind of sympathy that suggested he knew exactly how these evenings felt from my side of the table. And then they were gone, and it was just Rebecca and me and the ruins of the perfect dinner she'd tried so hard to create. Thank you, she said quietly, starting to clear the plates, for what you said about the dessert. I helped her carry dishes to the kitchen. We worked in silence, the way we'd learned to do over the years, moving around each other like dancers who'd forgotten why they'd started dancing in the first place. Your mother, I started, then stopped. I know, Rebecca said. She wouldn't look at me. The party. Daniel, she doesn't want me there. That's not, but she couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't make the lie sound true. I set down the stack of plates I was holding, carefully, precisely, the way I did everything. Do you want me there? I asked. She finally looked at me, really looked at me, and in her eyes I saw something that hurt worse than her mother's cruelty, worse than years of subtle digs and careful exclusions. I saw her hesitation. Of course I do, she said, but it came too late, half a second too late, and we both heard it. I nodded. Okay. Daniel, please. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Am I? I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. All I did was ask a question. She's my mother, and I'm your husband. I know that. Her voice cracked. Don't you think I know that? Don't you think I'm stuck in the middle of this? You don't understand what it's like, having to choose. You shouldn't have to choose, I interrupted. That's the point. You shouldn't have to choose between your husband and your mother because there shouldn't be a choice to make. But there is. There always has been. And tonight at that table, I watched you not choose me. Again. Tears welled in her eyes. That's not fair. No, I agreed. It's not. I left her in the kitchen and went upstairs. I sat on the edge of our bed, the bed we'd picked out together in a house we'd bought together, in a life we'd supposedly built together, and I felt very, very tired. But I also felt something else, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Clear. I felt clear. The snow kept falling outside our window, piling up in drifts, covering everything in white, erasing the world and making it new. I sat there for a long time, listening to Rebecca cry quietly downstairs, listening to the house settle around us, listening to my own heartbeat steady and slow and certain. And I started thinking, not about anger, not about revenge, about clarity, about truth, about what happens when someone who's been quiet for a very long time finally decides to speak, not with words, but with something much, much louder. I thought about bank accounts and credit cards, about whose name was on what, about the house and the cars and the lifestyle that Rebecca's family took such casual pride in, never quite acknowledging where the foundation of it all really came from. I thought about my silence, my accommodation, my endless, patient understanding. And I thought, what if I stopped? Not dramatically, not with explosions or ultimatums or grand gestures. Just stopped, quietly, carefully, the way I did everything else. Outside, the snow continued falling, soft and relentless, changing everything it touched. Inside, I sat in the dark and began to plan. Monday morning arrived with the kind of brittle brightness that only comes after fresh snow. Everything looked clean, untouched, perfect from a distance. I stood at the kitchen window, coffee in hand, watching Rebecca's car disappear down the driveway. She'd barely spoken to me since dinner. Not angry exactly, just careful. As if I were a door she wasn't sure she should open. I'd slept in the guest room. She hadn't asked why. I hadn't explained. The house settled into silence around me. Our house. Though technically, if anyone had bothered to look at the deed, they'd see only one name there. Daniel Marcus Hayes. Mine. Not Rebecca's. Not joint. Just mine. It was a detail no one in her family had ever thought to ask about. Why would they? In their world, what was mine was naturally Rebecca's, and what was Rebecca's was naturally theirs. The universe simply arranged itself that way, as inevitable and unquestioned as gravity. I'd been home from the office that week, a rare thing. I ran a software consultancy firm, The kind of business that didn't require my physical presence, but definitely required my strategic oversight. My partner, James, was handling client meetings. I told him I needed time to focus on some personal projects. He'd asked if everything was okay. I'd said yes. And technically, that wasn't a lie. Everything was about to be very, very okay. Just not in the way anyone expected. I set down my coffee and walked to my home office. It was the one room in the house that Rebecca had let me design completely, partly because she didn't care about boring work stuff, and partly because it gave her license to control everything else. The walls were lined with bookshelves. My desk faced the window. Everything was organized, methodical, exact. I sat down and opened my laptop. Then I opened a file I'd created at 3 in the morning, unable to sleep, my mind too full of calculations and realizations. The file was titled simply Foundation, because that's what I've been doing for 8 years without fully realizing it. Building a foundation, paying for things, investing in things, creating stability and security and comfort. And I'd done it all so quietly, so modestly, that everyone, including my wife, had somehow forgotten it was happening. Or maybe they'd never noticed in the first place. I started with the house. Purchase price, $1.2 million. Down payment, $300,000, entirely from my savings. Monthly mortgage, $4,200, paid from my business account for tax purposes, but ultimately my money. Property taxes, $18,000 annually. Homeowners insurance, $3,500. Maintenance repairs, the new roof last year. The kitchen renovation Rebecca had insisted on, another $85,000 over the course of our marriage. I made a note in the spreadsheet. Clean, factual, unemotional. Then the cars. Rebecca drove a BMW X5. Lease payment, $890 monthly. Insurance, $220. Gas, maintenance. That time she'd backed into a pole in a parking garage, and I'd paid the $3,000 deductible without mentioning it to her parents. All documented. My car was older, paid off, practical. A Honda Accord I'd bought used. Rebecca had once suggested I upgrade to something more suitable. I'd smiled and said I liked it fine. The credit cards came next. This was where things got interesting. We had joint credit cards, yes, but we also had cards in Rebecca's name that I paid off every month. Cards her mother had suggested she get for emergencies. Cards that somehow always carried balances for things that were never quite emergencies. Designer handbags, spa days, that spontaneous weekend in New York with Melissa, the 400 bottles of wine Patricia collected. I pulled up the statements. 8 years of statements. I'd kept everything, not out of paranoia or spite, but because I was fundamentally a person who kept records, who documented things, who believed in having proof. Current total across all cards, $7,000. I added it to the spreadsheet. Then came the smaller things. The things that individually seemed like nothing but collectively painted a very clear picture. Rebecca's student loans from graduate school, a degree in art history she'd never used, that I'd been paying off for 6 years. The country club membership that Patricia had insisted we needed to maintain proper connections. The donations to Rebecca's mother's various charity committees, always made in our name, always with checks I wrote. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, the yoga studio membership Rebecca had used exactly twice, the meal delivery service, the premium gym membership at the place Patricia went to, all automatically deducted from my accounts. I worked for 3 hours, pulling records, organizing data, creating a comprehensive picture of our financial reality. Not to weaponize it, not yet, just to see it clearly, to understand exactly what the foundation I'd built actually looked like when you step back far enough to view the whole structure. The numbers were startling, even to me. Over 8 years of marriage, I had personally contributed approximately $890,000 to our shared life. Rebecca's contributions, from her part-time work at an art gallery, a job she'd taken more for social purposes than financial ones, totaled roughly $120,000, most of which had gone into her personal accounts for discretionary spending. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. $890,000. Not our money, my work. my sacrifice. And at dinner 2 nights ago, Patricia had looked me in the eye and said, "Not all of us have the luxury of unlimited resources," as if I were the profligate one, as if I were the problem. My phone buzzed, a text from Rebecca. "Having lunch with Mom and Melissa, won't be home until late. There's leftover roast in the fridge. No, I love you. No, hope you're having a good day. Just information, delivered efficiently, the way you'd update a housemate about logistics." I stared at the message for a longer moment. Then I set the phone down and returned to my work. The spreadsheet was comprehensive, but it was on only data, numbers on a screen. What I needed was something more tangible, something that would create understanding in a way that numbers alone couldn't. I opened a new document and began writing. Not a letter. Letters could be dismissed, rationalized, argued with. Something more formal, more official, a financial disclosure statement. The kind of thing a lawyer might prepare. The kind of thing that would hold up in court if it ever came to that, though I had no plans for it to come to that. Not if everyone was reasonable. I documented everything, every payment, every contribution, every expense I'd covered. I included copies of deeds, titles, bank statements, credit card records. I organized it all chronologically, creating a narrative through pure financial fact. Here is what I paid for. Here is when I paid for it. Here is the proof. It took me the rest of the day. By the time I finished, the sun was setting, painting the snow outside in shades of pink and gold. Beautiful and cold at the same time. I saved the document, backed it up to 3 different locations. Then I saved it to a flash drive, a physical object, something that could be held, passed across a table, impossible to ignore. The flash drive was blue. Somehow that detail seemed important. Not red, which would imply anger. Not black, which would suggest mourning. Blue, calm, clear. The color of ice in winter sky day. I heard Rebecca's car in the driveway around 8. I was in the kitchen making myself dinner, just pasta with olive oil and garlic, simple and efficient. I heard her come in, heard her pause in the hallway when she saw the light in the kitchen, heard her decision to come in rather than avoid me. "Hi," she said. "Hi." I stirred the pasta. "There's enough if you want some." I ate with Mom. She set her purse on the counter. "Daniel, we should talk." "Okay." She seemed surprised that I'd agreed so easily. "I know you're upset about the party thing, and I get it, I do. But you have to understand, Mom is just, she's difficult. And it's easier sometimes to just let her have what she wants." I plated my pasta. "Is it?" "Yes." She sounded defensive now. "You don't know what it's like growing up with her. The expectations, the pressure. I've spent my whole life trying to make her happy, and nothing's ever good enough." "I understand that," I said, and I did. I understood it perfectly. "It must be exhausting." "It is." She softened slightly, apparently reading my words as sympathy rather than observation. "Thank you for understanding. But Rebecca," I continued, keeping my voice level, "you realize you're doing the same thing to me that she does to you, right?" She blinked. "What?" "The impossible expectations. The constant pressure to be someone I'm not. The sense that nothing I do is ever quite good enough." I picked up my plate. "You learned it from her, and now you're teaching it to me." "That's not—" She stopped, swallowed. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I looked at her directly. Really looked at her, maybe for the first time in months. "When was the last time you defended me to your mother? When was the last time you chose me, Rebecca? Actually chose me? When it mattered?" Tears filled her eyes. "I choose you every day. I married you, didn't I? With you, or did you marry the idea of me? The convenient husband who pays the bills and doesn't make waves and lets your mother run our lives." "You're being cruel." "No," I said quietly. "I'm being honest. For possibly the first time in our marriage, I'm being completely honest." She wiped at her eyes. "I don't understand what's happening. It's like you're a different person." "I'm the same person I've always been. You're just seeing me clearly now. Maybe for the first time." I left her in the kitchen and went upstairs. I ate my pasta in my office, staring at the blue flash drive sitting on my desk like a tiny bomb. Not ready to detonate it yet. Not sure if I'd ever need to. But it felt good to have it, to know that the truth existed in a form that couldn't be argued with or explained away. Around midnight, I heard Rebecca go to bed in our room. I stayed in the office working on something else now, making lists. Not of finances this time, but of logistics. What would it take to disentangle a life? Not to end a marriage, I wasn't there yet, wasn't sure I wanted to be there at all, but to create options, clarity, a framework for whatever came next. I thought about my business, how it was entirely mine, started before I met Rebecca, grown through my own work, how I'd carefully kept it separate from our personal finances, though the money from it had certainly flowed into our shared life. I thought about the house, my house, the one I'd bought, the one I'd maintained, the one I could legally and factually claim as my own asset. I thought about the credit cards and the loans and the endless stream of expenses that had somehow become my responsibility without anyone ever actually asking if I was willing to take them on. And I thought about what Patricia had said. Nobody needs your money or you. The interesting thing about that statement was how easy it would be to prove wrong or to prove right. If nobody needed my money, they could certainly manage without it. If nobody needed me, they could certainly manage without me. I wasn't planning to leave. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I was planning to stop carrying the weight of other people's expectations on my back. I was planning to stop being quite so accommodating, quite so generous, quite so silent. I was planning to let them feel what their life actually cost and who had been paying for it all along. The snow had stopped falling, but the world outside was still white, still transformed. I looked at my reflection in the dark window, a tired man in his late 30s, wearing an old college sweatshirt, holding a coffee mug that said, "World's Okayest Husband," a gag gift from Rebecca 3 Christmases ago that had somehow become my favorite mug. World's Okayest Husband. Maybe it was time to be something more than okay. Or maybe it was time to be nothing at all. To absent myself so completely from the equation that everyone could finally see what the equation looked like without me in it. I opened my email and began drafting messages. Not angry ones, not accusatory, just clear, professional, factual communications about changes that needed to be made. To the credit card companies, please remove me as an authorized payer on the following accounts. To the country club, I will no longer be covering the annual membership fees as of next month. To my bank, please transfer the following subscriptions and automatic payments to a new account and provide me with a complete record of all outgoing payments over the past year. I didn't send any of them. Not yet. They sat in my drafts folder, waiting, ready to be deployed when the moment was right, if the moment was right. I still hoped, in some small corner of my heart, that it wouldn't come to that Rebecca would wake up, that we'd talk, really talk, and find some way back to each other, that her family would somehow realize what they'd taken for granted and what they were about to lose. But hope, I was learning, was different from expectation. I could hope for the best while planning for the worst. I could be ready. The clock on my desk read 2:47 a.m. I was exhausted but not sleepy. My mind was too clear, too focused, running through scenarios and calculations and contingencies. I thought about the party, Rebecca's birthday party that I apparently wasn't invited to. It was 3 weeks away. 3 weeks to decide what kind of man I wanted to be. The accommodating husband who swallowed the insult and showed up anyway, smiling through the discomfort. The righteous one who made a scene, who demanded his place at the table. Or something else entirely. Something quieter. Something they'd never see coming until it was far too late. I finally went to bed around 3, slipping into the guest room that was starting to feel more like my room than the master bedroom I'd shared with Rebecca. The sheets were cold, the room was sparse, but it was mine in a way that nothing else in this house had been for a very long time. Tomorrow I decided I would begin, not with confrontation, not with anger, with silence. With the absence of all the things I'd been providing without anyone noticing I was providing them. with the gradual, systematic withdrawal of my support, my money, my energy, my presence. I would become a ghost in my own life, and maybe then, finally they'd realize I'd been the one haunting it all along. The change started small, so small that at first no one noticed. Tuesday morning, I made myself breakfast, eggs, toast, coffee, but I didn't make Rebecca's usual smoothie. The one I'd been making every morning for 3 years because she'd mentioned once that starting the day with something healthy made her feel better. The blender stayed silent in its corner. The frozen berries stayed frozen. Rebecca came downstairs, saw me eating at the kitchen island, looked around with a slightly confused expression. "Did you already clean up?" she asked. "Clean up what?" "The blender. I thought I'd hear it." "I only made breakfast for myself today," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "I figured you could make your own smoothie if you wanted one." She blinked. "Oh, okay." A pause. "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. I just thought it might be time for us both to be a bit more independent in small ways." She looked like she wanted to say something else, but I was already rinsing my plate, putting it in the dishwasher, moving through my morning routine with the same calm efficiency I always had, just minus one smoothie. It sounds petty, maybe, childish, but it wasn't about the smoothie. It was about the principle, about all the small, invisible labors that add up to something enormous but remain unnoticed until they stop. I kissed her cheek on my way out. I wasn't trying to be cold, just clear, and drove to the office. My first meeting was at 9 with our accountant, Marcus Chen, a man who'd been handling my business finances for 6 years and had become something of a friend. "You sounded serious when on the phone," Marcus said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "Everything okay with the business?" "Business is fine. This is personal." I slid a folder across the desk to him. "I need you to look at this and tell me if I'm seeing it correctly." He opened the folder. I watched his eyebrows rise as he paged through the financial disclosure I'd prepared. He was quiet for a long time, occasionally making small noises of surprise or concern. Finally, he looked up. "Daniel, this is... wow." "I know." "Does Rebecca know about this, these numbers?" "She knows I pay for things. I don't think she knows how many things, or how much they cost." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "Okay, speaking as your accountant, this is unsustainable from a wealth-building perspective. You're hemorrhaging money into expenses that provide you no return. And speaking as my friend?" He hesitated. "Speaking as your friend? What the hell, man? Why are you paying off her student loans? Why are you covering credit cards you're not even using? This isn't a marriage, it's a subsidy program." I smiled without humor. "That's certainly one way to look at it. Is there another way?" "I thought it was love," I said quietly. "I thought providing for her, for us, for our life together, I thought that was what you did when you love someone. There's providing, and then there's being taken advantage of." Marcus tapped the folder. "This looks a lot more like the latter." "I'm not sure she sees it that way. I'm not sure she sees it at all." "Then maybe it's time she did." He studied me carefully. "What are you planning, Daniel?" I told him. Not everything, but enough. The gradual withdrawal of financial support. The quiet removal of myself from the foundation I'd built. The plan to let them see what their life looked like without my money propping it up. Marcus listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "It's going to get ugly," he said finally. "Maybe." "No, not maybe, definitely. People don't like having their comfort disrupted, and Rebecca's family sounds like people who really, really like their comfort." "I know. Are you prepared for that? For the fallout?" I thought about Patricia's face at dinner, about Rebecca's hesitation when I'd asked if she wanted me at her party, about 8 years of being tolerated rather than treasured. "I'm prepared," I said. Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay, then let me help, officially help, because if you're going to do this, you need to do it right, clean, legal, protected." We spent the next 2 hours going through everything. Marcus made notes, asked questions, created a strategy that was both comprehensive and airtight. He showed me how to separate joint accounts without causing immediate alarm, how to redirect automatic payments gradually rather than all at once, How to create a paper trail that would hold up under any scrutiny. The key, he said, is to make it look like normal financial housekeeping. Spring cleaning, restructuring for tax purposes. Nobody questions that. Nobody panics. And by the time they realize what's actually happening, it's already done. That feels manipulative. Daniel, Marcus looked at me seriously. You've been manipulated for 8 years. This isn't manipulation, it's correction. You're just bringing reality back into alignment with the truth. Maybe he was right. Or maybe I was justifying something petty and vengeful by dressing it up in the language of justice. I didn't know anymore. I just knew that I was tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of being taken for granted. Tired of being the world's okayest husband to a wife who'd stopped seeing me as anything more than a particularly generous ATM. I left Marcus's office with a plan. A real one. Timeline, steps, contingencies. Everything organized and methodical, the way I did everything in life. Step 1 was already in motion. The small subtractions, the smoothies, the coffee runs I usually made without being asked, the automatic restocking of Rebecca's favorite wine, her specific brand of face cream, the particular Greek yogurt she liked. None of it would stop because I'd forbidden it. It would simply stop because I'd stopped doing it. Step 2 would begin next week, the financial separation. Not divorce-level separation, just the quiet unwinding of all those joint accounts and shared expenses. My money would stay mine. Her expenses would become her responsibility. Step 3, if it came to that, was the nuclear option, the flash drive, the complete financial disclosure, the irrefutable proof of exactly who had been paying for exactly what. I didn't want to get to step 3, but it was there, waiting if I needed it. That evening, I came home to find Rebecca in the kitchen, looking frustrated. "We're out of coffee," she said. "The good kind. I thought you usually, I usually pick it up." "Yes," I said, "but I didn't this week. Did you want me to?" She looked confused. "I mean, if you're going to the store anyway." "I'm not going to the store, but you could order some online, or stop by that coffee shop you like on the way home from the gallery tomorrow." Okay. She was staring at me like I'd suggested something radical. "Is this about the other night? Are you punishing me for the party thing?" "No," I said honestly, "I'm not punishing you. I'm just asking you to be responsible for the things you consume. That's not punishment. That's just basic adulthood." "You're being weird." "I'm being clear." She didn't know what to say to that. Neither did I, really. So we stood there in our beautiful kitchen, the one I'd paid to renovate, filled with appliances I'd bought in a house I owned, and we looked at each other like strangers. "I'm going to take a bath," she said finally. "Okay." She left. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard the bathroom door close, heard the water start running. I made myself dinner. Just myself. I didn't ask if she wanted anything, didn't prepare extra just in case. It felt strange, being this intentionally separate in a shared space, but it also felt honest. Over the next few days, the pattern continued. Small absences where there used to be small presences. I stopped doing her laundry along with mine, stopped automatically recording her favorite shows, stopped filling her car with gas when I noticed it was low. None of it was mean-spirited. I wasn't hiding things or sabotaging anything. I was just opting out, quietly withdrawing from the endless, invisible labor of maintaining someone else's comfort. Rebecca noticed, of course. How could she not? But she didn't say anything directly. Instead, she got passive-aggressive, sighs when she had to make her own breakfast, pointed comments about how she'd had to actually go to the dry cleaner herself for the first time in months. Little martyred silences that were supposed to make me feel guilty. They didn't. Or maybe they did, but I was choosing not to let the guilt move me. Guilt, I was learning, was often just a tool people used to keep you doing things that benefited them at your expense. On Friday, exactly 1 week after the dinner, I met with my lawyer. Sarah Kwan was sharp, efficient, and entirely unsentimental about the law. I'd used her for business contracts. Now I was using her for something more personal. "I'm not filing for divorce," I told her immediately. "I want to be clear about that." "Okay," she said. "So what are we doing?" Protecting myself, setting boundaries, making sure that if things do head toward divorce, I'm prepared. She nodded. Smart. What do you need? I showed her the financial disclosure, showed her the documentation of the house, the cars, the credit cards, showed her the clear demarcation between what was mine and what was technically ours, even though functionally it had all been mine. Sarah reviewed everything with the same careful attention Marcus had shown. This is comprehensive, as she said. You've basically already done my job. I'm thorough. You're also in a very strong position. Legally speaking, most of these assets are clearly yours. The house is in your name alone. The business is separate property. Even the joint credit cards, you can demonstrate that you've been the sole contributor. What about her? What about Omar? What would she get if it came to divorce? Sarah considered. Depends on your state's laws, how a judge felt, what kind of fight she put up. But honestly, with this level of documentation, she'd get some spousal support for a while. Maybe a small settlement, but nothing like half. Not when you can prove she contributed so little to the marital assets. I felt something loosen in my chest, relief maybe, or just the comfort of knowing that I wasn't as trapped as I'd feared. I want you to prepare a post-nuptial agreement, I said. Sarah's eyebrows rose. That's bold. Is it possible? Possible, yes. Whether she'll sign it is another question. Postnups are tricky. They require full financial disclosure, independent counsel for both parties, and a lot of very careful negotiation. If I asked her to sign one, what would be fair? Fair to whom? To both of us. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Daniel, can I be honest with you? Please. This isn't really about fair, is it? This is about you waking up to the fact that you've been taken for granted, maybe even taken advantage of, and now you're trying to correct the power imbalance in your marriage. Is that wrong? No, but it's not something a legal document can fix. You can protect your assets. You can create financial boundaries. But the fundamental problem in your marriage, that's not a legal problem. That's a relationship problem. I know. Do you? Because it seems like you're building a fortress when what you really need is a conversation. I smiled sadly. I've tried conversations for 8 years. They don't work when the other person doesn't think there's a problem. Then maybe you need to make the problem visible. That's what I was doing, I thought, making the problem visible, making myself visible by disappearing. I left Sarah's office with homework, a list of questions to consider before proceeding with the postnup. Questions about what I really wanted from my marriage, what I was willing to accept, what my actual deal breakers were. It was the kind of deep self-examination I'd been avoiding for years. Easier to just keep paying the bills, keep smoothing things over, keep being the accommodating one. But I wasn't avoiding it anymore. That weekend, Patricia called. Rebecca put her on speaker. Darling, I'm finalizing the party details. I need a head count. It'll be you, Melissa, Craig, your father and me, and of course Aunt Linda and Uncle George. That's 7. Should I plan for 8? 8. Me, the question she wasn't quite asking. Rebecca looked at me. I looked back at her, silent. Mom, Rebecca said slowly, Daniel is my husband. Of course he is, Patricia said smoothly. I'm simply asking if he plans to attend. No pressure either way. No pressure. Right. I haven't decided, I said, speaking directly to the phone. Patricia's silence was sharp. She wasn't used to me asserting myself. Well, she said finally, I'll need to know by next week. The caterer requires final numbers. I'll let you know, I said. After the call ended, Rebecca turned to me. You're really not going to come? I don't know. Do you want me there? Of course I want you there. Do you, or do you want to want me there? Because those are different things, Rebecca. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't understand why you're making this so difficult. I'm not making anything difficult. Your mother uninvited me from your birthday party. I'm simply considering whether I should attend a party I'm not wanted at. She didn't uninvite you. She just said it would be family only, intimate, just us. I kept my voice level. I was there, Rebecca. I heard her. She made it very clear that I'm not part of us. You're being oversensitive. And there it was, the dismissal, the minimization. My feelings, my hurt, my very reasonable reaction to being excluded, all of it swept aside as oversensitivity. Maybe I am, I said. Or maybe I'm finally being sensitive enough to how I'm treated, how I'm valued, how I'm seen. I left her there and went to my office. I had work to do, real work this time. I was setting up something new, a separate checking account entirely in my name. I transferred my direct deposits from the business. I set up new automatic payments for my personal expenses, my car insurance, my phone, my health insurance, things that were mine and mine alone. Then I went through every joint expense and calculated exactly what percentage was actually Rebecca's responsibility. Her car, her credit cards, her portion of the utilities, her half of the groceries, the streaming services, the household expenses. It came to about $3,800 a month, $3,800. That's what her life actually cost when you removed all my subsidies. My paying for everything. My generous, invisible support. I drafted an email to her. Rebecca, I've been thinking about our finances. I believe it would be healthy for both of us to have more independence and clarity about our individual expenses. Starting next month, I propose we split household costs 50-50, with each of us responsible for our own personal expenses, car, credit cards, etc. I've created a breakdown of what this would look like. Your portion would be approximately $3,800 a month. Please let me know if you have questions or want to discuss this. Daniel, I attached the spreadsheet, then I saved the email in drafts. Not ready to send it, not yet, but soon. Outside my office window, the snow was melting. The world was emerging from its white blanket, revealing all the things that had been hidden underneath. Dead grass, broken branches, the debris of winter. Sometimes you had to let things thaw before you could see what was really there. And I was ready to see. Finally ready to see. The morning I sent the email, I felt nothing. Not triumph, not anxiety, not even the grim satisfaction I'd expected. Just a peculiar flatness. Like I'd stepped into a room I'd been avoiding for years and found it was just a room after all. Nothing monstrous, nothing dramatic, just a space that needed to be addressed. I pressed send at 7:43 a.m. on a Monday. Rebecca was still asleep. I'd been up since 5, drinking coffee in my office, reading and rereading the email, making sure the tone was right. Professional but not cold, clear but not cruel. The email of a man drawing a line, not declaring war. I knew she'd see it when she woke up. She always checked her phone first thing, scrolling through social media and emails before she even got out of bed. It was one of those habits I'd noticed but never commented on. The way you notice everything about someone you live with, but file most of it under not my business to change. I went to the gym. I had a membership I actually used. Unlike Rebecca's, that charged her card monthly for a facility she visited maybe 3 times a year. I did my usual routine, weights, cardio, stretching, and the whole time my phone stayed silent in my locker. When I came out, I had 7 missed calls from Rebecca and 12 text messages. I didn't read them immediately. I showered first, took my time. There was a strange power in not rushing, in refusing to be moved to urgency by someone else's panic. Finally dressed and sitting in my car, I looked at the messages. The first one, did you seriously just send me a bill? Second, this isn't we're married. This isn't how marriage works. Third, you can't just decide to split everything without talking to me first. Fourth, I'm calling you, pick up. The rest were variations on the same theme, shock, anger, disbelief. Not one of them said, you're right, I should have been contributing more. Not one of them said, I didn't realize how much you were carrying. Just, how dare you make me uncomfortable? I called her back. She picked up on the first ring. What the hell, Daniel? Good morning to you too. Don't do that calm thing you do. This is not okay. You sent me a spreadsheet breaking down how much money I owe you like I'm some kind of tenant. That's not what I said. I said this is what your share of expenses would be going forward if we split things equally. We're married. We don't split things equally. That's the whole point of being married. I pulled out of the gym parking lot, put her on speaker. Actually, Rebecca, I think the point of being married is partnership, shared responsibility, mutual support. What we have is me supporting you while what exactly do you contribute? The silence was sharp enough to cut. I contribute plenty, she said, her voice tight. Like what? I manage the house. I plan dinners. I maintain our social calendar. You plan dinners that I pay for. You maintain a social calendar of events I fund. And as for managing the house, Rebecca, when was the last time you cleaned anything? We have a cleaning service. That I pay for. So this is about money. No, this is about reality. This is about me asking you to participate in the life we supposedly share. $3,800 a month, Daniel. Do you know how much I make at the gallery? I do, actually. $32,000 a year, which is about $2,600 a month after taxes, which means you'd need to either get a better job or cut some expenses like adults do. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe it took me 8 years. I heard her breath hitch. Not quite a sob, but close. Are you leaving me? The question hung in the air between us. I thought about it, really thought about it. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I know I can't keep doing what I have been doing. It's not sustainable. And more than that, it's not a marriage. It's an allowance system where I'm playing parent to a grown woman. That's cruel. Is it, or is it just true? Other silence, then. I need to talk to my mother. Of course you do. I hung up. My hands were shaking slightly on the steering wheel, not from anger or fear, but from the sheer strangeness of it all. 8 years of accommodation ended with one email. 8 years of being nice, being understanding, being endlessly patient. Gone. And I felt lighter. I spent the day at the office, actually working this time. Client calls, project reviews, the normal rhythm of a business day. Around noon, my phone rang. Patricia. I let it go to voicemail. She called again 10 minutes later. Again, voicemail. The third time, I picked up. Daniel, her voice was ice. I think we need to have a conversation. Hello, Patricia, how are you? Don't be glib. Rebecca called me in tears. She said you're extorting her. Extorting? That's interesting. I'm asking her to pay for her own expenses. That's called being an adult, not extortion. You're her husband. You're supposed to take care of her. I've been taking care of her for 8 years. While being told repeatedly, including by you, that my money isn't needed or wanted. So I'm simply taking you at your word. I could practically hear her recalibrating, searching for a new angle of attack. This is about the party, isn't it? You're upset about not being included. The party is a symptom, not the disease. The disease is that your daughter and your family have treated me like an ATM for nearly a decade, and the one time I asked for basic consideration, I'm told nobody needs me. So fine. If nobody needs me, nobody needs my money either. You're being petty. I'm being consistent. You wanted me out of the family circle. Congratulations, I'm out. But my wallet is staying out with me. Rebecca won't be able to afford that amount. You know that? Then perhaps she should have thought about that before agreeing with you that I'm unnecessary. Patricia's voice dropped into a register I'd never heard before. Something dangerous and sharp. You will regret this, Daniel. You're making enemies you can't afford. Patricia, I said calmly, I've been married to your daughter for 8 years. I've eaten at your table, listened to your criticisms, funded your family's lifestyle, and swallowed every insult with a smile. I've already been your enemy. I just wasn't fighting back. That's the only thing that's changed. I hung up. My heart was pounding. My hands weren't just shaking now, they were trembling. I'd never spoken to Patricia like that, never stood up to her, never drawn a line and dared her to cross it. It felt terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. That evening, I came home to find Rebecca in the living room, laptop open, paper spread across the coffee table. She looked up when I came in. Her eyes were red. I've been looking at my finances, she said, really looking at them. I set down my briefcase. And I can't do it, $3,800 a month. Even if I cut everything, got rid of my car lease, canceled subscriptions, I still can't make it work on my salary. So get a different job. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I like my job. Because I studied art history for 6 years. Because I'm not just going to abandon my career to work at some corporate hellhole just because you've decided to throw a tantrum about money. I sat down across from her. Rebecca, you don't have a career. You have a hobby that pays you pocket change. There's nothing wrong with that, except that hobbies don't fund lifestyles, not ones like yours. Ones like mine. Listen to yourself. You sound like my mother. Do I? Because your mother doesn't fund her own lifestyle either. Your father does. And apparently she thought I'd do the same for you. And I did. For 8 years. But I'm done now. She closed her laptop. What do you want from me, Daniel? What is this really about? I thought about the question. It deserved a real answer. I want you to see me, I said finally, not as a provider or a problem or a convenience, as a person, as your partner. I want you to care about me even a fraction as much as you care about your mother's opinion. I want to feel like I matter to you beyond my ability to maintain the lifestyle you've become accustomed to. You do matter to me. Do I? Then why didn't you defend me at dinner? Why are you more worried about your mother's feelings than mine? Why has it taken a financial ultimatum to get you to even acknowledge that there's a problem? She didn't answer. Couldn't answer, maybe. I'll make you a deal, I said. Come to counseling with me. Real counseling, not just talking to your mother or your friends. A neutral third party. We'll work through this. But in the meantime, the financial arrangement stands. Starting next month, you're responsible for your share. And if I can't pay it, then we'll need to make some changes. Sell your car and get something more affordable. Move to a smaller house. Adjust the life we have to fit the life we can actually afford together. You mean the life I can afford? Because you can clearly afford all of this. Yes, I said, I can, but I'm not willing to anymore. Not alone. Not while being treated like I'm lucky to be tolerated. Rebecca stood up, gathering her papers. I need to think. Okay. I might stay at my parents' for a few days. Something in my chest tightened. Is that what you want? I don't know what I want. I don't know anything anymore. A week ago, we were fine. And now you're demanding money and telling me I don't appreciate you and everything is falling apart. We weren't fine a week ago, Rebecca. We've never been fine. I've just been pretending we were. And I can't pretend anymore. She left that night, packed a bag, kissed me on the cheek in this distant, formal way, and drove to her parents' house in the BMW I was still, technically, paying for. I stood in our empty house, my empty house, and felt the silence settle around me like snow. The next morning, I started the second phase of my plan. I called the BMW dealership and asked about early lease termination. Expensive, but possible. I called the country club and canceled our membership. I called every subscription service, every automatic payment, every recurring charge that benefited Rebecca. And I either canceled it or removed my payment information. It was surgical, precise. Each cut clean and documented. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was trying to show her the truth. This was what our life cost. This was what I've been carrying. And if she wanted to continue living this way, she'd need to figure out how to carry it herself. Or we'd need to build something different together. Something more honest, more equal. But that required her to choose. To really choose. Me or the lifestyle. Partnership or comfort. And I was done choosing for her, or... Over the next 3 days, my phone blew up. Rebecca called, Patricia called, Melissa called, even Donald called once, awkward and apologetic, asking if there was anything he could do to help smooth things over. You can tell your wife to stop treating me like hired help, I said. That would smooth things over considerably. He sighed. Patricia has her ways, she doesn't mean harm. Doesn't she? Because it's felt pretty harmful from where I'm standing. She's protective of Rebecca. You have to understand. I understand perfectly. She's protective of Rebecca's comfort, not Rebecca's growth, not her happiness. Her comfort, And she's raised her daughter to expect the same protections, the same insulation from reality. Well, I'm not Patricia. I'm not going to fund a grown woman's extended childhood. Donald was quiet for a long moment. You're not wrong, he said finally, about any of it, for what that's worth. Then why don't you say something? Because I learned a long time ago that some battles aren't worth fighting. Patricia wants what she wants, and fighting her just makes everyone miserable. So you gave up. I chose peace. No, I said, you chose surrender. Those are different things. I hung up, feeling sorry for Donald. He was a kind man, a smart man, but he'd been ground down by years of choosing comfort over confrontation. He'd let Patricia run their family, their finance, their lives, and now he was just a passenger in his own marriage. I wouldn't let that happen to me. Friday afternoon, a week after I sent the email, Rebecca came home. I heard her car in the driveway, heard her key in the lock, heard her set down her bag in the hallway. She found me in the kitchen making dinner. Just for me. Chicken, roasted vegetables, a simple salad. Hi, she said. Hi. It smells good. Thanks. She sat down at the kitchen island. I talked to a therapist, just one session, but she said I should come home, that running away doesn't solve anything. Smart therapist. She also said you're not wrong about the money stuff. She said it sounds like we have a fundamental imbalance in our relationship and that my family might be enabling some unhealthy patterns. I plated my food, didn't offer her any. She noticed. I want to try, she said. The counseling, working on this. I don't want to lose you, Daniel. Do you want to lose the lifestyle? She flinched. That's not fair. It's completely fair, because that's the actual choice here. You can have me as a partner, an equal, someone you respect and value beyond his bank account. Or you can have me as a provider, someone who funds your life while you prioritize your mother's opinions and your own comfort. But you can't have both anymore. I choose you. Do you, or are you choosing what I provide? I choose you, she repeated, and this time there were tears in her eyes. I do. I know I haven't appreciated you. I know I've let my mother. God, I sound exactly like her, don't I? The way I talk to you sometimes. Sometimes, I agreed, I don't want to be her. Then don't be. Make different choices. Choose me over her approval. Choose us over comfort. Choose honesty over pretending everything is fine when it isn't. She wiped at her eyes. The money thing, the $3,800. I really can't afford it. I know. So what do we do? I sat down across from her. We build a budget together, a real one, based on what we can both actually contribute. Maybe we downsize the house. Maybe you get a different job or find a way to make your current job more financially viable. Maybe we cut the country club and the fancy dinners and the expensive cars. Maybe we build a life that's actually sustainable instead of one that's only possible because I'm bleeding money. My mother will have a stroke. Your mother doesn't get a vote. Rebecca laughed, watery and weak, but still a laugh. She really doesn't, does she? No, she doesn't. This is our marriage, our life. Our choice. I'm sorry, she said, for all of it, for not seeing, for not defending you, for letting her make you feel unwelcome in our family. You deserve better. I did, I said. I do. Can you forgive me? I thought about it, really thought about it. Forgiveness wasn't a switch you flipped. It was a process, a choice you made repeatedly. I can try, I said, if you can try. Really try to be different, to be better, to be the partner I need instead of the daughter your mother wants you to be. I'll try, she said. I promise I'll try. We sat there in the kitchen, the space between us smaller than it had been in weeks. Not gone. There was still hurt, still anger, still 1,000 things that needed to be said and worked through, but smaller. It was a start, maybe not a good one, maybe not enough, but it was something. And sometimes when you've been living in nothing for long enough, something feels like everything. The counseling session started the following week. Dr. Vivian Marshall had an office in a converted brownstone downtown, the kind of place that probably cost $200 an hour, but felt worth it the moment you walked in. Soft lighting, comfortable chairs, a general atmosphere of, it's safe to be honest here. Rebecca and I sat on opposite ends of a cream-colored sofa, not touching, but not aggressively apart either. The careful distance of people who were trying, but didn't quite know how yet. Dr. Marshall was a black woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an absolutely unshakable demeanor. She'd seen it all, you could tell. Our particular brand of dysfunction was probably Tuesday afternoon for her. So, she said, after we'd done the initial intake forms and awkward small talk, Daniel, you sent Rebecca a spreadsheet breaking down household expenses. Tell me about that decision. I'd expected judgment, some version of, that's not how you communicate in a marriage. But her tone was genuinely curious, not accusatory. I'd been paying for everything for 8 years, I said. Not just my share, everything. Her car, her credit cards, expenses her family expected us to cover. And it had become invisible, normal, expected. I wanted to make it visible again. Visible to whom? To both of us, I suppose. But mostly to Rebecca. Dr. Marshall turned to my wife. Rebecca, when you saw that spreadsheet, what did you feel? Angry, Rebecca said immediately, like he was attacking me, like he was trying to humiliate me by putting a price tag on our marriage. And underneath the anger, Rebecca was quiet for a moment, scared, because I realized I couldn't afford my own life, that everything I thought was ours was actually his, that I'd been dependent without even realizing it. Daniel, when you heard Rebecca say she felt attacked, what came up for you? Frustration, I said, because the spreadsheet wasn't an attack. It was just facts. And the fact that facts felt like an attack to her told me how skewed our reality had become. Dr. Marshall nodded, making a note. Let's talk about that reality. Rebecca, walk me through a typical month in your marriage before the spreadsheet. Rebecca described it. Her part-time job at the gallery that she loved, but that paid very little. Shopping trips with her mother and sister, usually on credit cards I paid off. Dinners out, always expensive places, because Patricia had opinions about where the family should be seen. The country club, the yoga studio membership, the subscription boxes, the regular salon appointments. And you didn't think about the cost of these things? Dr. Marshall asked. I knew they cost money, but Daniel never said anything. He never complained or told me to stop. So I thought it was fine. Daniel, why didn't you say anything? I thought about how to answer that honestly. Because I thought that's what love looked like, providing, making sure she had what she wanted. I grew up poor. My mother worked herself half to death trying to give me opportunities. I think I confused providing with loving. If I could give Rebecca everything, then I was being a good husband. And when did you realize that wasn't working? At a family dinner. Her mother said, nobody needs your money or you. And Rebecca didn't disagree. She just sat there. And I realized that all my providing hadn't bought me love or respect or even basic consideration. It had just bought me the privilege of being tolerated while I paid for everything. Rebecca made a small sound, not quite a sob. Dr. Marshall looked at her. What's coming up for you right now, Rebecca? Shame, she whispered. Because he's right. I did just sit there. I let my mother say that to him, and I didn't defend him. I didn't even think to defend him. I was so worried about not making waves with her that I didn't notice I was drowning him. It was the most honest thing she'd said to me in months, maybe years. Here's what I'm hearing, Dr. Marshall said. Daniel, you built a relationship where your value was tied to your providing. Rebecca, you accepted that relationship because it was comfortable and familiar. Your father provides for your mother the same way. But neither of you actually wanted that dynamic. You wanted partnership, equality, to be seen for who you are rather than what you provide. Yes, I said. Yes, Rebecca echoed. So the question is, can you build that now? Can you dismantle the patterns you've established and create something different? I want to try, Rebecca said. Trying isn't enough, Dr. Marshall said, not unkindly. Trying is what got you here. You tried to be a good husband by providing. You tried to keep everyone happy by not making waves. Trying is often just another word for avoiding real change. What I'm asking is, are you willing to be uncomfortable, to have hard conversations, to potentially upset people, including Rebecca's mother, in service of building a healthier relationship? The question hung in the air. I am, I said. Rebecca took longer. I don't know if I can stand up to my mother. Then you can't have this marriage, Dr. Marshall said simply, because your mother is the third party in your relationship, and she's actively working against it. Either you set boundaries with her or you stay enmeshed with her and lose Daniel. Those are your options. It was brutal, exactly what needed to be said, but brutal nonetheless. Rebecca cried. I wanted to comfort her, to reach across the space between us and take her hand, but I didn't. This wasn't my pain to soothe. This was hers to feel, to sit with, to decide what to do about. We left that session emotionally raw, drove home in separate cars. Rebecca had driven herself, still sleeping at her parents' house most nights, despite saying she'd come home. That night, alone in my house, I made myself dinner and thought about what Dr. Marshall had said, about trying versus doing, about discomfort versus change. I'd been uncomfortable for years, but I hadn't changed anything. I just endured. Now I was changing things, and it felt terrifying. Like dismantling a building while you were still living in it, not sure if you were going to end up with a renovation or just rubble. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Thank you for going to counseling. I know it's not easy. I wrote back, nothing worth doing is easy. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. I'm going to talk to my mother tomorrow. Set boundaries, like Dr. Marshall said. Good. I'm scared. I know, but you can do hard things. Can I? I've never had to before. That hit me square in the chest. She was right. Rebecca had never had to do hard things. Her parents had money. She'd gone to good schools, gotten degrees she didn't need to use, married someone who took care of everything. Her biggest hardship had been choosing between the BMW and the Mercedes when we leased her car. She'd been protected her entire life, and that protection had made her weak. Not in a cruel way, just in the simple, factual way that muscles atrophy when they're not used. She'd never had to be strong because strength had never been required. You can learn, I wrote back. It's not too late to learn. The next day was Saturday. I spent the morning doing yard work, raking leaves that had been hidden under the snow, cleaning gutters, the kind of maintenance work that's both boring and satisfying. Physical labor that let my mind wander. Around noon, my phone rang. Patricia. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Daniel, she said, her voice tight with barely controlled fury. Rebecca just left my house in tears. She said some very hurtful things. Things I can only assume came from you. What did she say? That she couldn't have Sunday dinners here anymore. That she needed space from me to work on her marriage. As if I'm the problem with your marriage. As if I haven't been nothing but supportive. I sat down on my porch steps, phone pressed to my ear. Patricia, when have you ever been supportive of me? I welcomed you into our family. No, you tolerated me. There's a difference. You let me sit at your table as long as I paid for the privilege and kept my mouth shut. That's not support. That's not even basic civility. How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? Point out that you spent 8 years undermining my marriage while enjoying the financial benefits I provided? You wanted me to be invisible. Congratulations. I'm becoming invisible. But my wallet is becoming invisible too. Is that what this is about? Money? How small? How petty? It's not about the money, Patricia. It's never been about the money. It's about respect. About being treated like a person rather than an appliance. About my wife choosing me over your approval. And if that upsets you, if that disrupts your perfect little family dynamic, then I guess you'll have to be upset. Rebecca will never choose you over me. The confidence in her voice was stunning. Absolute certainty that her daughter would always come back to her, would always prioritize her mother's feelings over her husband's needs. And the terrifying thing was, she might be right. We'll see, I said and hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from adrenaline. I just declared war on Patricia Montgomery, a woman who treated grudges like investment portfolios and never forgot a slight. But I was done being careful, done managing her feelings, done pretending that her cruelty was just her way or how she shows love. or any of the other euphemisms people use to excuse bad behavior. If Rebecca was going to set boundaries, I needed to model it, needed to show her what it looked like to say no, to prioritize yourself, to refuse to be diminished, even if it meant burning bridges, especially if it meant burning bridges. That evening, Rebecca came home, actually home, not just stopping by. She had her overnight bag, her toiletries, the things she'd taken to her parents' house. I did it, she said. She looked exhausted. I told her no. I told her I needed space. I told her that she'd been interfering in our marriage and that it had to stop. How did she take it? About as well as you'd expect. Tears, accusations, the whole after everything I've done for you speech. Rebecca set down her bag. She called you a manipulator, said you were isolating me from my family. Am I? No, you're asking me to prioritize my marriage. That's not isolation. That's just being married. She sank onto the couch. I sat next to her. Not touching yet, but close. She called you too, didn't she? Rebecca asked. Yes. What did you say? The truth, that I'm done being treated like I'm lucky to be tolerated, that I deserve better, that we deserve better. Rebecca leaned her head against my shoulder. It was the first time she'd initiated physical contact in weeks. I'm so tired, she said, of trying to please her, of trying to be what she wants. I've spent my entire life trying to earn her approval, and it's never enough. Nothing's ever enough. I know. How do you know? Because I've spent 8 years trying to earn yours, trying to be worth keeping, and it was never enough either. She lifted her head to look at me. I'm sorry for making you feel that way, for treating you like you had to earn your place in our marriage. Are you going to stop? I'm going to try, really try, not just say it, but do it. Then so will I. We sat there in our living room, in our house, in our marriage that was somehow both broken and being rebuilt at the same time. It felt fragile, like we were working with pieces of glass, trying to fit them back together without cutting ourselves. But we were trying, really trying, and maybe that was enough. For now, the second counseling session was harder than the first. Dr. Marshall had given us homework, make a list of resentments, everything we'd been holding back, swallowing down, pretending didn't matter. Write it all out. Be specific. Be honest. Be brutal if necessary. I'd filled 3 pages. Rebecca had filled half of one. Interesting, Dr. Marshall said, looking at our lists. Rebecca, why do you think your list is so much shorter? Because I don't hold on to things like Daniel does? Or because you haven't let yourself acknowledge how unhappy you've been? Rebecca shifted uncomfortably. I haven't been unhappy. No, Marshall consulted Rebecca's list. You wrote, I resent that Daniel makes me feel guilty for spending money. I resent that he doesn't understand my family. I resent that he's changed the rules without warning. Those don't sound like the resentments of a happy person. I mean, I'm happy overall. These are just small things. Nothing that makes it onto a resentment list is a small thing. These are the paper cuts that become infected. Daniel, let's hear some of yours. I looked down at my pages. Where to even start? I resent that I've been funding your family's lifestyle while being treated like I'm not good enough for them, I said. I resent that you prioritize your mother's opinion over mine on everything from where we vacation to what we eat for dinner. I resent that you've never once stood up for me when your mother criticizes me. I resent that you don't know what our mortgage payment is, or what your car costs, or how much money I've spent keeping up the appearance of a life you think we just naturally have. I paused. Rebecca was crying silently. I resent, I continued more quietly now, that I felt alone in our marriage for years, that I can't remember the last time you asked me how I was doing, or what I needed, or if I was happy. I resent that I've been the one carrying everything while you coasted along. And the moment I asked you to carry even a fraction of the weight, you acted like I was being unreasonable. That's not, Rebecca started. Let him finish, Dr. Marshall said gently. I resent, I said, that I've had to become someone you don't like in order to get you to see me at all. That the only way to make myself visible was to take away the things you'd taken for granted. I resent that we're here in this office trying to save a marriage that you didn't even notice was dying. Silence, heavy and thick. Dr. Marshall turned to Rebecca. What comes up when you hear Daniel's resentments? I want to defend myself. I want to explain why he's wrong, why it's not that simple, why he's not seeing my side. But I can't, because he's not wrong about most of it, maybe all of it. Rebecca wiped at her eyes. I didn't notice the marriage was dying because I was comfortable, because everything was taken care of, because I could just float along and assume it would always be okay. Daniel, how does it feel to hear Rebecca acknowledge that? Validating and sad, because I didn't want to be right about this. Rebecca, you wrote that Daniel makes you feel guilty about spending money. Tell me more about that. Rebecca took a breath. Every time I buy something, I feel like he's judging me, like he's keeping track, adding it up, getting ready to use it against me. Have I ever done that? I asked. Before the spreadsheet, did I ever actually make you feel guilty? Or did you feel guilty because some part of you knew you were overspending? You never said anything, but your silence felt like judgment. My silence was me trying not to be controlling, trying to let you have autonomy, but you interpreted it as judgment anyway. Dr. Marshall made a note. This is important. Daniel, you thought you were being generous and non-controlling by not mentioning Rebecca's spending. Rebecca, you experienced his silence as passive-aggressive judgment. Both of you created stories about what the other person was thinking instead of actually communicating. So what do we do? Rebecca asked. You start talking about everything: money, family, expectations, feelings. You get radically honest with each other, and you accept that honesty is going to be uncomfortable. She turned to me. Daniel, you've created a crisis to force change. That's not inherently wrong, but it's also not sustainable. You can't hold a relationship hostage to prove a point. I'm not, aren't you? The spreadsheet, the withdrawn support, the ultimatums about counseling, these are all pressure tactics. They might be justified pressure tactics, but they're still coercive. And coercion, even righteous coercion, isn't the foundation for a healthy relationship. I felt something defensive rise in my chest. So what was I supposed to do? Keep funding everything while being treated like furniture? No, you were supposed to use your words. To say, this isn't working for me. I need things to change. Here's what I need. Instead, you withdrew support and waited for Rebecca to notice. That's punishment, not communication. He did use his words, Rebecca said, surprising me. I just wasn't listening. He's told me for years that my mother bothers him, that the spending bothers him. I just dismissed it as him being uptight or oversensitive. Why, Dr. Marshall asked. Because it was easier than changing. Easier than having hard conversations with my mother or looking at my own behavior. So I made him the problem instead. Dr. Marshall nodded. You're both doing the work now. The question is, can you keep doing it when it gets harder? Because it will get harder. Setting boundaries with family, changing financial dynamics, rebuilding trust. All of that is going to create conflict. Are you both willing to tolerate that conflict in service of something better? I looked at Rebecca. She looked back at me. Yes, we said together. It felt like a vow, more real than the ones we'd said at our wedding, because this time we knew what we were promising. Not just love in the abstract, but the hard, daily work of actually being partners. The session ended with more homework: create a joint budget. Actually sit down together and map out income and expense. Make decisions together about what to prioritize and what to cut. Force ourselves to have the practical, unglamorous conversations we'd been avoiding. In the car afterward, Rebecca said, Marshall was right. You were being coercive. I know. But I needed the coercion. I wouldn't have woken up otherwise. That doesn't make it okay. No, but it makes it understandable. She looked out the window. I've been thinking about my job at the gallery. Yeah, I love it, but I love it because it's easy and comfortable and doesn't demand much from me, just like everything else in my life. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe I need to get a real job, something that pays enough that I'm actually contributing, So I'm not dependent on you. So I'm bringing something to the table besides pretty decorations and family drama. It was the most pragmatic thing I'd ever heard her say. You don't have to give up what you love, I said. Maybe I do, or maybe I need to find a way to love something that also pays me like an adult. She turned to look at me. I've been a child, Daniel, a grown woman playing at adult life while you handled all the actual adult responsibilities. That stops now. Okay, I'm going to look for a new job. Marketing, maybe. I have the art history degree, the aesthetic sense. I could work for a museum or a gallery in a real capacity, or corporate communications. Something that uses my skills but actually pays. I'll support whatever you decide. I know you will. You've always supported me. I just never appreciated it before. We drove home in silence, but it was a different kind of silence than before. Not empty or tense, just quiet. The peaceful quiet of two people who'd said what needed to be said and were now letting it settle. That weekend, we sat down with a laptop and all our financial records and built a budget together. It was excruciating. Rebecca had never looked at our actual numbers before. Seeing the mortgage payment made her gasp. The property taxes made her put her head in her hands. When I showed her the total of credit card debt she'd accumulated, she went pale. $47,000? $47,000. How did I not know this? Because I paid the minimums every month and never said anything. Why didn't you say anything? Because I thought that's what husbands did. I thought I was being noble. Turns out I was just being an enabler. We listed out every expense, every subscription, every bill, every automatic payment. Rebecca saw for the first time exactly what our life cost, and more importantly, what her life cost. I can't afford any of this, she said, staring at the screen. Not on your current salary, no. So we cut, and cut we did. The country club, gone, savings of $5,000 annually. Rebecca's BMW lease, replaced with buying out her current lease and then getting a used Honda. Savings of $600 monthly. The meal delivery service, the premium gym membership, the luxury skincare subscription boxes, the streaming services we never watched, all gone. Another $400 monthly. We kept the cleaning service. I insisted on that. Didn't want to slip into a dynamic where Rebecca did all the domestic labor, but reduced it from weekly to bi-weekly. By the time we were done, we'd cut about $2,800 from our monthly expenses. I can do this, Rebecca said, looking at the new numbers. With a better job, I can actually pay my share. We're a team. We don't have to split everything exactly 50-50. No, I want to. I need to. I need to know I can take care of myself, that I'm not just a dependent. Something shifted in how I saw her in that moment. She wasn't being stubborn or proud. She was trying to grow up. Finally, at 34 years old, trying to become a self-sufficient adult. Better late than never, I supposed. There's one more thing we need to talk about, I said. The party. The party. Rebecca's birthday was in 10 days. Patricia had been planning it for weeks, had apparently put down deposits at the country club we no longer belonged to. I'm going to tell her to cancel it, Rebecca said. Are you sure? Yes, I don't want a party that you're not invited to, and I don't want to spend your money on something that's designed to exclude you. It's exactly the kind of thing Dr. Marshall was talking about, choosing my mother's approval over our marriage. She's not going to take it well. I know, but that's her problem, not mine. I have to start letting her have her own problems instead of making them my problems. I felt something warm spread through my chest. Pride, maybe, or hope. Or just relief that Rebecca was finally choosing us. I love you, I said. It was the first time I'd said it in weeks, maybe months. I love you too, she said, and she meant it. I could tell she meant it. We spent the rest of that Sunday afternoon on the couch, laptop between us, making plans. Not just financial plans, but life plans. What we wanted our marriage to look like. What we wanted to prioritize. How we wanted to spend our time and money and energy. It felt like a new beginning. Like we were dating again, getting to know each other, figuring out if we actually liked the people we were becoming. I think we did. Monday morning, Rebecca called her mother. I didn't listen in. That was her conversation to have. but I could hear her voice from the other room. Calm at first, then strained, then firm. When she came out of the bedroom, she looked shaken but determined. I did it. I canceled the party. How did she react? About how you'd expect. Tears, guilt, the whole I've already put down deposits thing. But I stood my ground, told her to cancel it or I wouldn't show up anyway. I'm proud of you. Thanks. I'm not sure I'm proud of me yet. I feel kind of sick, actually. Like I just did something terrible. You didn't. You set a boundary. It only feels terrible because you've never done it before. She said I've changed, that I'm not the daughter she raised. Good. The daughter she raised was miserable and didn't know you should. Rebecca laughed, surprised. That's true, isn't it? I was miserable. I just called it other things. Stress, family obligations, normal marriage stuff. None of it was normal. We just normalized it. Well, no more. From now on, we're figuring out our own normal. She kissed me, really kissed me, for the first time in weeks, and it felt like coming home after a long, exhausting journey. We weren't fixed. We had months, maybe years of work ahead of us. Patterns to break, habits to rebuild, trust to earn back on both sides, but we were trying, really trying, and this time, we both knew what we were trying for. Patricia didn't take the party cancellation lying down. The phone call started that evening, first to Rebecca, who let them go to voicemail after the third one. Then to me, which was new. Patricia usually only called me when she needed something moved or fixed or paid for. I answered out of morbid curiosity. Daniel, her voice was ice wrapped in silk. I'd like to speak with you about what you've done to my daughter. Hello, Patricia. I haven't done anything to Rebecca. I've done things with her. There's a difference. You've poisoned her mind against me, against her own family. I've asked her to prioritize our marriage, Vivedacio. If that feels like poison to you, maybe you should examine why. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. I know what this is. You're isolating her. It's what abusers do. The word hit like a slap. Abusers? Yes, financial abuse, emotional manipulation, forcing her to choose between you and her family. These are classic signs. I felt my jaw tighten. Patricia, I've spent 8 years funding your daughter's lifestyle while being treated like a second-class citizen in my own marriage. The moment I asked for basic partnership and respect, you're calling me an abuser. Do you hear how absurd that sounds? I hear a man who's trying to control my daughter. No, you hear a man who's asking your daughter to be an adult, to make decisions, to take responsibility. Those things apparently feel threatening to you because they mean you lose control. But your daughter isn't your possession, Patricia. She's my wife, and it's time she started acting like it. The silence on the other end was arctic. You'll regret this, she said finally. When she comes to her senses and realizes what you've done, you'll regret every word of this conversation. The only thing I regret is not having it 8 years ago. I hung up. My heart was racing. My hands were shaking. But I also felt clean, like I'd finally said things that needed to be said for years. Rebecca appeared in the doorway. Was that my mother? Yes. What did she say? That I'm abusing you, isolating you, controlling you. Rebecca sank onto the couch next to me. She used those exact words with me too. Abuse. Control. She's trying to make this about you being dangerous instead of about her being intrusive. It's a smart tactic, makes her the victim instead of the problem. Except I'm not buying it anymore. Rebecca took my hand. I know what abuse looks like. My college roommate was in an abusive relationship. Her boyfriend tracked her phone, controlled who she saw, screamed at her for spending money on lunch. That's not what this is. What is this then? This is you finally asking me to be your partner instead of your dependent. That's not abuse. That's just marriage. Real marriage. My phone buzzed. A text from Melissa, Rebecca's sister. What did you do to Mom? She's freaking out. Rebecca saw it and grimaced. They're mobilizing the whole family. They're going to try to get me to come back to Sunday dinners, to apologize, to go back to how things were. Are you going to? She looked at me for a long moment. No, I'm not. I can't. If I do, we're done. I know that now. You'll never trust me again if I choose them over us. It's not about choosing them over us. It's about finding a balance. There is no balance with my mother, Daniel. There's capitulation or there's conflict. Those are the only options she gives, and I'm done capitulating. The conviction in her voice was new and terrifying, probably for her. She'd spent her entire life avoiding conflict with Patricia. Now she was walking straight into it, eyes open. I'll support you, I said. Whatever you decide, however you want to handle your family. I know, but this isn't on you to fix. This is my family, my dysfunction, my responsibility to address. Over the next few days, the pressure intensified. Donald called, his voice pained. Sweetheart, your mother is beside herself. Can't you just come to dinner this Sunday? Smooth things over? No, Dad, I can't, and I won't. Not until she's ready to respect my marriage and my husband. Melissa showed up at our house unannounced, looking worried. Becca, Mom is talking about health problems, stress-related stuff. The doctor says she needs to avoid conflict. Rebecca stood in our doorway, arms crossed. Then she should stop creating conflict by trying to control my life. That's harsh. Is it? Or is it just honest? Even Rebecca's Aunt Linda got involved, calling to deliver a lengthy speech about family loyalty and respecting your elders and how difficult Patricia's childhood had been, as if that excused her adult behavior. Rebecca listened politely to all of it, then said, I appreciate you calling, Aunt Linda, but this is between me and Mom. And unless she's willing to actually hear what I'm saying instead of making herself the victim, we don't have anything to discuss. I watched her handle each call, each visit, each attempted intervention with increasing confidence. She wasn't mean about it, wasn't cruel, just firm, clear, adult. It was remarkable. And clearly, Rebecca was remarkable. I'd known she could be strong. I'd just never seen her exercise that strength before. She'd always chosen the path of least resistance with her family. Now she was choosing the hard path and discovering she could walk it. Meanwhile, I was handling my own fallout. My business partner, James, called me into his office one afternoon. And I don't know what's going on in your personal life, but you seem lighter lately, more focused. Things are complicated, but yeah, lighter is a good word. Rebecca, okay? We're in counseling, working through some stuff, but I think we're going to be okay. Good, because I was worried about you for a while there. You were going through the motions, no, here, but not present. Had I been? I thought about it. The last few years at work had been fine, competent, professional, but had I been engaged, excited, present? Not really. I'd been using work as an escape from a marriage that was slowly suffocating me, putting in the hours but not the passion, because all my emotional energy was going into managing Rebecca's moods and her family's demands. I'm working on being more present, I said. Everywhere, work, home, life. No more autopilot. James grinned. Good, because I was about to pitch you on expanding into the Seattle market, but I needed you actually in the game, not just showing up. We spent the next hour talking about the expansion. Real strategy, real excitement, the kind of engaged conversation I realized I hadn't had about work in months. When I got home that evening, Rebecca was cooking. Actually cooking, not just reheating something I prepared or ordering takeout. Is that pasta? I asked, surprised. Carbonara, or my attempt at it. I called your mom for the recipe. I froze. You called my mother? Yeah, I realized I've barely talked to her in years. Your family kind of fell by the wayside when mine took up all the oxygen. So I called her. We talked for like an hour. About what? You, mostly. She told me stories from when you were a kid, how hard she worked to give you opportunities, how proud she is of what you've built. Rebecca stirred the pasta. She also told me very gently that she was worried I was taking advantage of you. She said that? Not in those words, but yeah. She said you were always the kind of kid who gave everything to people you loved, and sometimes people took advantage of that generosity. When did she say this? A few years ago, apparently, at our wedding, but I brushed it off as mother-in-law stuff. I sat down at the kitchen counter processing this. My mother had seen it, had tried in her careful way to warn Rebecca. and Rebecca hadn't listened. "I'm sorry I didn't listen to her," Rebecca said. "I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. I'm sorry I took 8 years to wake up." "You're awake now, that's what matters." She served the pasta. It was pretty good, actually. Not perfect, but good. Made with effort and intention, which made it taste better than anything she could have ordered. "I had 2 interviews this week," she said. "You did?" "Yeah. One at an advertising agency doing art direction. One at the Museum of Modern Art in their development office. Both would more than double what I'm making now." "That's amazing. How did they go?" "Pretty well, I think. The museum one especially. They seemed impressed by my background, my connections." She made a face. "Courtesy of my mother, ironically. And they liked that I understood both the artistic side and the social networking side." "When will you hear back?" "Next week for the museum, 2 weeks for the agency." We ate together talking about the jobs, about what each would mean, about how our lives might change if she had a real career instead of a hobby job. It felt normal, healthy, like a couple building a life together instead of one person building a life while the other coasted along. After dinner, we cleaned up together. Rebecca washed, I dried. The simple domestic rhythm of it felt almost revolutionary after years of me doing everything while she disappeared to call her mother or scroll through Instagram. "I've been thinking," Rebecca said, hands in soapy water, "about my birthday." "Yeah? I don't want a big party. I don't want the country club or the fancy dinner or any of that. I just want to spend it with you. Maybe we could go somewhere just for the weekend, somewhere quiet." "Where would you want to go?" "I don't know. Somewhere we've never been, somewhere that's ours, not influenced by my mother or family tradition or anything else, just us." I thought about it. "There's a cabin I've had my eye on, in the mountains about 2 hours north. It's rustic but beautiful. Fireplace, hiking trails, complete isolation." "That sounds perfect." "Really? No five-star hotel? No room service?" "Really, I think I need to remember how to be comfortable without luxury, how to enjoy things that are simple and real instead of expensive and curated." I kissed her forehead. "I'll book it." That night, we slept in the same bed for the first time in weeks. Not in a sexual way, we weren't there yet, but in the way of people who were finding their way back to each other. Close but not demanding, present but not pressuring. It felt like progress. The next morning, Sunday, was the first Sunday in 8 years that we didn't go to Patricia's for dinner. Rebecca was anxious about it, kept checking her phone, waiting for the inevitable call or text demanding to know why we weren't coming. It came at 4:47 p.m., a text from Patricia. "I've set your places at the table. We're expecting you at 6. Not a question, a statement, an assumption that Rebecca would fall in line, that this small rebellion would collapse under the weight of family expectation. Rebecca showed me the text. "What should I say? What do you want to say?" She thought about it, then typed, "We won't be joining you for dinner tonight or any Sunday going forward. When you're ready to have a respectful conversation about boundaries, let me know." She showed it to me before sending. "That's perfect," I said. She hit send. We waited. 5 minutes. 10, 15. Then her phone started ringing. "Patricia." Rebecca declined the call. It rang again. Declined again. A text. "We need to talk about this." Rebecca typed back, "I agree, but not tonight. I need space. Please respect that." Another call. Declined. Then a text from Donald. "Your mother is very upset. Please call her." Rebecca wrote back, "I'll call her when I'm ready. Right now, I'm asking for space. Please help her respect that." The messages kept coming for another hour. Melissa, Aunt Linda, even Craig, Melissa's husband, who Rebecca barely knew. She declined them all. "This is hard," she said, curling up next to me on the couch. "I know. I feel like I'm abandoning her." "You're not. You're just asking for room to breathe, to build our marriage without her interference. That's not abandonment. That's self-preservation." She doesn't see it that way. She doesn't want to see it that way, but her feelings about your boundaries aren't your responsibility. Rebecca was quiet for a long time. Then, "I keep waiting to feel guilty, to cave, to call her and apologize just to make the discomfort stop. But you're not. No, I'm not. Because I remember what Dr. Marshall said about choosing comfort over change. And I'm so tired of being comfortable. Comfortable has made me weak and dependent and small. I don't want to be small anymore. I held her while she cried. Not the tears of someone breaking, but of someone breaking free. And outside, the last of the snow was melting, revealing the ground underneath. Solid, real, ready for something new to grow. The call from the museum came on a Wednesday. I was in a meeting when Rebecca texted, "They offered me the job," followed by base salary $78K plus benefits, starting in 2 weeks, followed by a string of celebration emojis that was so un-Rebecca-like, it made me smile. I excused myself from the meeting and called her. 78,000, I said when she picked up. 78,000. She was breathless, excited. "Daniel, that's more than double what I was making. And they said there's room for growth, that this could lead to a directorship position in a year or two if I prove myself." "I'm so proud of you." "I'm proud of me too." Is that allowed? To be proud of yourself? It's absolutely allowed. I start March 1st, 2 weeks. Oh God, I have to give notice at the gallery. How do you feel about that? A pause. Relieved, actually. I loved it there, but it was a hiding place. A place where I could feel sophisticated and cultured without actually challenging myself. This new job, it's going to be hard. Real responsibility, fundraising targets, strategic planning. I'm terrified. You're going to be amazing. How do you know? Because you've spent the last month doing hard things, setting boundaries with your mother, going to counseling, actually looking at our finances, getting this job. Every single one of those things was hard, and you did them anyway. You're stronger than you think. She was quiet for a moment. Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. Always. That evening we celebrated, not at an expensive restaurant. That was the old Rebecca's version of celebration. Instead, we cooked together. I made my mother's lasagna recipe. Rebecca made a salad. We opened a bottle of wine that cost $15 instead of $50, and it was perfect. We talked about what the new job would mean, the financial freedom it would give us, how Rebecca could actually contribute equally to the household, how we could start saving for things we wanted instead of just hemorrhaging money on things we didn't need. "I calculated it out," Rebecca said. "After taxes, I'll bring home about $5,200 a month. My share of expenses is $3,800. That leaves me $1,400 for savings and personal spending. You don't have to account for every dollar to me, Rebecca." "I know, but I want to. I want to show you that I'm taking this seriously, that I'm being responsible." "Okay, then let's set up a real system. Joint account for household expenses, separate accounts for personal spending, complete transparency, but also autonomy." We spent the next hour setting it up. New bank accounts, automatic transfers, a shared spreadsheet where we could both see income and expenses. It was pragmatic and unromantic and absolutely necessary. "This feels weird," Rebecca admitted, "like we're roommates splitting rent instead of married people." "We're married people who are finally being honest about money. That's different than roommates." "I guess it's just, my parents never did it this way. Everything was just sort of communal. Dad made the money, Mom spent it. Nobody talked about it. And look how that turned out." Rebecca made a face. "Point taken." The next challenge came that Friday. Melissa called ostensibly to congratulate Rebecca on the new job. Word had apparently spread through the family, but really to deliver a message. I could only hear Rebecca's side of the conversation, but it was enough. "I appreciate you calling, Mel, but I'm not isolating myself. I'm setting boundaries. No, Daniel didn't force me to do anything. This was my choice. I understand Mom is hurt, but her being hurt doesn't mean I'm wrong. I'm not coming to Sunday dinner, not until things change. I'm not negotiating this with you, Melissa. This is between me and Mom." There was a long pause while Melissa apparently delivered whatever emotional manipulation Patricia had scripted for her. Then Rebecca said, her voice shaking but firm, "If Mom wants to disown me for choosing my husband and my marriage, that's her choice. But I'm not backing down, not this time. She hung up, sat very still, then burst into tears. I held her while she sobbed, big, ugly, cathartic sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep and old. She said Mom has been crying every day, Rebecca said when she could talk again, that she can't eat, that she's making herself sick over this, that I'm killing her. That's emotional blackmail. I know, but it still works. I still feel like the worst daughter in the world. You're not. You're a daughter who's finally growing up. And your mother can't handle it because she built her identity around controlling you. Melissa said I've changed, that I'm not the person I used to be. Is that true? Rebecca thought about it. Yes, but the person I used to be was miserable. I just didn't know it because miserable was normal in my family. Do you want to go back to being that person? No, never, even if it means losing them. She said it with such conviction that I believed her, and maybe for the first time, she believed herself too. The weekend of Rebecca's birthday arrived. We drove north on Friday afternoon, leaving the city behind, heading into the mountains where everything was still white and quiet and clean. The cabin was exactly as advertised. Rustic, isolated, beautiful. Wood-burning stove, no TV, no internet, just us and the silence and the snow. This is perfect, Rebecca said, standing on the porch and looking out at the forest. I can't remember the last time I couldn't hear traffic or sirens or other people. We spent the evening in front of the fire, drinking hot chocolate, the kind you make from scratch, not from a packet, and talking, really talking, about our childhoods, our fears, our hopes for the future. I was thinking, Rebecca said, about what kind of mother I want to be. If we have kids. We've never really talked about kids. I know, because I was terrified I'd be like my mother, controlling, critical, never satisfied. But watching you set boundaries, watching myself learn to set boundaries, I think I could be different. I think I could break the pattern. You could. Would you want kids? With me? With us as we are now? I thought about it honestly. I don't know, a few months ago I would have said no, because I didn't trust that we could raise kids together without repeating the dysfunction. But now, maybe, if we keep doing this work, if we keep being honest with each other. I'd want to wait, get some years of healthy marriage under our belt first, prove to ourselves that we can actually do this. Agreed. On Saturday, her actual birthday, we hiked through the snow, 3 miles into the woods, up a trail that wound between pine trees heavy with fresh powder. At the summit was a view that took my breath away. Mountains stretching in every direction, pristine and white under a blue sky so bright it hurt to look at. This, Rebecca said, this is better than any party at the country club. Really? Really, because it's real. Because I earned it. I hiked up here on my own legs. Because it's ours. Not curated by my mother or designed to impress anyone. Just ours. I pulled out the small box I'd been carrying in my jacket pocket. Happy birthday! She opened it. Inside was a simple silver necklace with a small compass pendant. It's beautiful, she said. Read the inscription. She held it up to the light. Engraved on the back of the compass, find your own north. Her eyes filled with tears. Daniel, you've spent your whole life following your mother's compass, living by her directions. I want you to have your own, to find your own way, even if it's different from mine sometimes, even if it's hard. She put it on. The compass sat right over her heart. I love it. I love you. Thank you for not giving up on me, for giving me the chance to become someone better. You were always someone good. You were just lost. I was, but I'm finding my way now. We stayed up there for a long time, just standing together in the cold, clean air, looking out at a world that suddenly seemed full of possibility instead of obligation. When we got back to the cabin, there were 17 missed calls on Rebecca's phone, which she'd left behind intentionally. 15 from Patricia, 2 from Melissa. I'm not calling back, Rebecca said. Not today. Today is ours. We made dinner together, steaks on the wood stove, baked potatoes, a salad from vegetables we'd brought, Simple food that tasted extraordinary because we'd made it together, because we were present with each other, because there was no family drama demanding our attention. After dinner, we sat by the fire and Rebecca said, "I need to tell you something." Her tone made me nervous. "Okay. I've been thinking about what comes next, with my mother, with my family, and I think I need to go no contact for a while." "How long is a while?" "I don't know. Months, maybe. However long it takes for me to get strong enough that being around her doesn't pull me back into old patterns." "That's a big decision." "I know, but I don't think I have a choice. Every time we talk, every time she texts, I feel myself getting smaller, doubting myself, wanting to apologize just to make the discomfort stop. I need space from that, real space. Not just avoiding Sunday dinners, but actually cutting contact." "What about your dad, Melissa?" "I'll tell them they can have a relationship with me if they respect my boundaries. But if they're just going to be flying monkeys for my mother, then I need space from them too." "That's really hard." "I know, but you know what's harder? Going back to who I was, losing myself again, losing us again." She took my hand. "You're my family now. You're my priority. And I can't build a life with you while my mother is tearing down everything we're trying to create. I support you, whatever you decide. I'm going to send a letter. Not a text, not a call, a real letter explaining what I'm doing and why. That way she has something to read and reread instead of just her emotional reaction in the moment." "When?" "When we get home. I'll write it this week and send it next week, before I start my new job, so I can start this new chapter of my life with a clean slate." We talked more about what that would look like, how to handle holidays, family emergencies, the inevitable pushback. We made plans and contingencies, approaching it the way we'd approached our financial restructuring, methodically, thoughtfully, together. That night, we made love for the first time in months. It was different than before. More present, more honest, less about performance or obligation and more about actually connecting, seeing each other, choosing each other. Afterward, lying tangled together under thick quilts, Rebecca said, "I feel like I'm meeting you for the first time, really meeting you. Not the man I married because he was safe and stable and my parents approved, but you, the actual you. How do you like me? So much more than I expected. You're funnier than I knew, smarter, more patient, stronger. I took all of that for granted before. You didn't take it for granted. You just didn't see it because I didn't show it. I hid behind being accommodating, being easy, never rocking the boat. We were both hiding, weren't we? Me behind my mother, you behind your niceness. Two people playing roles instead of actually being married. And now we're trying to be real. It's scarier, but it's better." Sunday morning, we packed up the cabin and drove home. Back to the city, back to real life, back to the challenges we'd been avoiding for a weekend. But we were different, stronger, more aligned, ready for whatever came next. The letter took Rebecca 3 days to write. I watched her go through draft after draft, trying to find the right balance between honest and kind, firm and compassionate. She'd write something, read it to me, then crumple it up and start over. "It sounds too angry," she'd say. Or, "This sounds like I'm apologizing when I shouldn't be." Finally, on Thursday evening, she had something she was satisfied with. She read it to me one last time. "Dear Mom, I'm writing this letter because I need to establish some boundaries that I haven't been able to articulate clearly in our phone conversations. I love you. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me, but I've come to realize that our relationship has become unhealthy for me. Over the years, I've allowed you to have too much influence over my life, my marriage, and my decisions. I've prioritized your approval over my own well-being and over my relationship with my husband. This stops now. I need space to build my marriage, to figure out who I am as an adult independent of your expectations, and to heal from patterns that have hurt both me and Daniel. Therefore, I'm asking you not to contact me for the next 6 months. No calls, no texts, no visits, no communication through other family members. This isn't a punishment. This is a necessity. I need time to get strong enough to have a relationship with you that's healthy and boundaried, rather than one where I'm constantly trying to earn your approval at the expense of everything else. After 6 months, if you're willing to respect my marriage, respect my boundaries, and treat Daniel with the kindness and consideration he deserves, we can slowly rebuild our relationship. But it will be different than before. I won't be coming to every Sunday dinner. I won't be asking your permission for my life choices. I won't be accepting criticism of my husband or my marriage. I hope you can understand and respect this. But even if you can't, this is what I need to do. I love you. I'll see you in 6 months. Rebecca, she looked up at me. Is it okay? It's perfect. Clear, firm, but not cruel. She won't like it, but she'll understand it. Should I add anything about her potentially needing therapy? Or is that overstepping? That's overstepping. You can only control your own healing, not hers. Rebecca nodded, folded the letter, put it in an envelope, addressed it in her careful handwriting. I feel like I'm going to throw up, she said. That's normal. You're doing something brave and hard. Will she respect it? The 6 months? Honestly, probably not. But that's why you need to be ready to enforce it. Block her number if you have to. Return her letters unopened, whatever it takes. That feels so cruel. It's not cruel, it's self-preservation. And you can't heal while she's constantly undermining your healing. Rebecca held the letter for a long moment, then, I'm going to drop it in the mailbox now before I lose my nerve. She put on her coat, walked to the corner mailbox and dropped it in. When she came back, she was crying. I just cut off my mother. For 6 months. Not forever. It feels like forever. I held her while she cried. This was the cost of change. This was the price of growth. And it hurt, even when it was necessary. The letter would arrive Saturday. We both knew that Sunday would be chaos. We were right. Sunday afternoon, my phone started ringing. Patricia, calling me instead of Rebecca for the first time. I answered, "What have you done to my daughter?" No preamble, just fury. I haven't done anything to Rebecca. She made her own choice. She would never cut me off like this. Never. You manipulated her into this. You've been working on her for months, turning her against me. Patricia, Rebecca is an adult. She made a decision about what she needs for her own mental health. You can respect that or not, but I didn't make her do anything. 6 months. She wants me to have no contact for 6 months. Do you know what that will do to me? Do you know what decades of your control have done to her? The line went silent. Then, I've given her everything. Everything. And this is how she repays me? She doesn't owe you repayment. She's your daughter, not your investment. How dare you? Patricia, I'm going to say this once, and then I'm going to hang up. Your daughter has asked for space. If you love her, you'll give it to her. If you don't, if you try to violate her boundaries or manipulate her through other family members, you'll only prove that she was right to set those boundaries in the first place. The choice is yours. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Rebecca appeared from the bedroom where she'd been hiding from the noise. What did she say? What you'd expect. That I manipulated you. That she's the victim. That you're ungrateful. I knew she'd call you. She can't accept that I made this decision on my own. Are you okay? I will be, once the initial fallout settles. But the fallout didn't settle. It escalated. Melissa showed up at our house Monday evening looking distraught. You have to come home, she said the moment Rebecca opened the door. Mom is devastated. She's not eating. She's barely sleeping. Dad says she's talking about going to the hospital for her nerves. Rebecca stood in the doorway, not inviting her sister in. I'm not coming home, Mel. This is home, and I'm not responsible for Mom's reaction to my boundaries. Boundaries? You've cut her off completely. For 6 months, and only because she can't respect smaller boundaries. This is what she's forced me to do. She hasn't forced you to do anything. Daniel has... Stop, Rebecca's voice was sharp. Stop blaming Daniel. I made this choice. Me, not him. And if you can't respect that, then you need to leave. You've changed. You're not the sister I know. Good. The sister you knew was miserable and afraid and controlled by our mother. I'm not that person anymore. Melissa's face crumpled. I miss you. I miss you too. but I can't have a relationship with you if you're just going to be mom's messenger. If you want to have dinner with me and Daniel, if you want to actually be my sister instead of mom's enforcer, I'm here, but otherwise what? Otherwise, I need space from you too. Melissa left in tears. Rebecca closed the door and leaned against it. That was awful, she said. You did great. Did I? I just chose my husband over my sister. No, you chose your health over your family's dysfunction. There's a difference. The next day, Tuesday, Rebecca started her new job. She was nervous, more nervous than I'd seen her in years. She changed her outfit 3 times, worried about her hair, kept asking if she looked professional enough. You look perfect, I told her. They hired you because you are qualified and talented. Just be yourself. What if myself isn't good enough? Then you'll learn and grow and become better. That's how jobs work. She kissed me, grabbed her new work bag, a professional leather tote, not the designer handbag her mother had bought her, and headed out. I spent the day trying to focus on work, but mostly just hoping Rebecca was okay. She called me at lunch, breathless and excited. It's amazing, it's hard and scary, and I have so much to learn. But Daniel, people are taking me seriously. They're asking my opinion. They're treating me like a professional, not like someone's decorative daughter. I'm so proud of you. I have to go, meeting in 5 minutes, but I just wanted to tell you, I did it. I'm actually doing it. That evening, she came home energized despite being exhausted. Tell me everything, I said. She did. The people she'd met, the projects she'd be working on, the fundraising gala she'd be helping to plan. She talked for an hour straight, animated in a way I'd rarely seen her. This was Rebecca without the weight of her mother's expectations, without the constant need to perform or please or pretend. Just herself, excited about her work, challenged by it, growing into it. I fell in love with her all over again. Wednesday brought a new wrinkle. Donald showed up at my office. My assistant buzzed me. Daniel, Rebecca's father is here. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's important. I sighed. Send him in. Donald looked older than I remembered, tired, worn down in a way that went beyond age. I'm not here to fight, he said immediately. I just wanted to talk, man to man. Okay. He sat down heavily. Patricia's making everyone's life hell, mine, Melissa's, even the country club staff. She's furious about Rebecca's letter, about the boundaries, about all of it. That's not my problem, Donald. I know, and honestly, I think you're right. About all of it. Patricia has always been controlling, with the kids, with me, with everyone. I've let it happen because fighting her is exhausting, and it was easier to just go along. So why are you here? To apologize for not standing up for you earlier, for not protecting Rebecca from her mother's worst impulses, for being a coward. He met my eyes. You did what I should have done 30 years ago. You set boundaries. You demanded respect, and I admire that. Even though it's making my life very complicated right now. I didn't know what to say. I'm not asking you to change anything, Donald continued. I'm not asking Rebecca to back down. I'm telling you that you have my support. Privately, at least. Publicly, I have to keep the peace with Patricia. But privately, I think what you and Rebecca are doing is brave and right. Does Rebecca know you feel this way? I'd like to tell her if you think she'd want to hear it. I think she'd love to hear it. Donald nodded. I'll call her, not to pressure her about her mother, just to be her dad, the way I should have been all along. After he left, I sat at my desk for a long time processing. Patricia was alone now. Her husband sympathized with Rebecca. Her daughters were either setting boundaries or would be soon. She'd built her entire identity around controlling her family, and now that control was slipping away. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. That evening, Rebecca got a call from her father. They talked for over an hour. I couldn't hear most of it, but I could see Rebecca's face softening, see tears of relief rather than pain. When she hung up, she said, Dad apologized for not protecting me from Mom, for enabling her behavior, for making me feel like I had to choose. How do you feel? Lighter, like maybe I'm not completely alone in this. Like maybe my whole family isn't broken, just Parts of it. That's good. He said he's proud of me, that he thinks I'm doing the right thing. Do you know how long I've waited to hear my father say he's proud of me? I held her while she cried happy tears this time. Healing tears. Friday afternoon, exactly 1 week after mailing the letter, Rebecca got a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, then decided to just in case it was something important. Hello? Rebecca, it's Aunt Linda. Your mother is in the hospital. Rebecca went pale, put the phone on speaker so I could hear. What happened? She collapsed this morning. They think it's stress-related. High blood pressure, heart palpitations. She's stable now, but Rebecca, she's asking for you. She needs her daughter. Rebecca looked at me. I could see the panic in her eyes, the guilt, the old programming kicking in that said she was responsible for her mother's health, her mother's happiness, her mother's everything. I'll think about it, Rebecca said slowly. You'll think about it? Your mother is in the hospital and you'll think about it? Yes, because I don't know if this is a real emergency or emotional manipulation. And I need to figure that out before I do anything. How can you be so cold? I'm not cold, I'm careful. There's a difference, Raj. She hung up. What do I do? She asked me. What do you want to do? I want to believe this is real, but I also know my mother, and this feels convenient, perfectly timed to make me break my boundaries. Call the hospital. Ask to speak to her doctor. Get actual medical information, not family drama. Rebecca did. The hospital confirmed Patricia had been admitted. The doctor, bound by privacy laws but willing to confirm basic facts, said Patricia had experienced elevated blood pressure and heart palpitations, likely stress-induced, but was stable and in no immediate danger. So it's real, but not life-threatening, Rebecca said after hanging up. Sounds like it? Should I go see her? Do you want to? She thought about it. No, I don't. Because if I go, it'll confirm that all she has to do is create a medical emergency and I'll come running. It'll undo everything we've been working toward. Then don't go. But what if something really is wrong? What if she... Rebecca. I took her hands. Your mother is in a hospital. She has doctors. She has your father. She has Melissa. She's not alone. You not being there doesn't mean she's abandoned. It means you're maintaining a boundary even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. This feels like the worst daughter in the world, or the healthiest daughter you've ever been. She called her father, confirmed the medical details, told him she wouldn't be coming to the hospital, but that she hoped Patricia recovered quickly. Donald, to his credit, said he understood. Melissa did not. She sent a series of texts calling Rebecca selfish, heartless, cruel. Rebecca blocked her number after the fifth one. I'm doing the right thing, Rebecca kept saying like a mantra. I'm doing the right thing. You are, I confirmed, but I could see the cost of it. See how hard it was. See her questioning herself, her guilt eating at her, the old patterns screaming that she was a terrible person for not dropping everything for her mother. This was the test. This was the moment that would determine if Rebecca could really maintain her boundaries, or if Patricia could still manipulate her through medical crises and family pressure. We spent that weekend quiet and close. Rebecca worked on projects for her new job. I worked on business plans. We cooked together, watched movies, existed in our own little bubble of peace while the storm raged outside. Patricia was released from the hospital on Sunday. According to Donald's brief text update, she was fine. Medically fine, at least. Rebecca breathed easier after that. I did it, she said. I maintained the boundary even when it was hard. You did. I'm stronger than I thought. You always were. You just didn't know it yet. That night, lying in bed, Rebecca said, I keep thinking about what comes next, after the 6 months, whether I'll be able to have a relationship with her at all. You might not. I know, and that's terrifying. But also, I think I'd be okay if it came to that. I'd rather have no mother than have a mother who makes me small. That's growth. It's sad growth. Most growth is. We fell asleep holding each other, two people who'd almost lost each other but were finding their way back, step by painful step. And outside, spring was coming, the snow melting, the world thawing, everything changing, whether we were ready or not. 6 months passed. Not easily, not smoothly, but they passed. Rebecca threw herself into her new job with a dedication I'd never seen from her. She worked long hours, took on challenging projects, made herself indispensable to the museum's development team. Within 3 months, she'd organized a fundraising gala that brought in $500,000. Within 5 months, she was being talked about for early promotion. She was thriving. We were thriving. Counseling continued. We went every 2 weeks, working through layers of patterns and pain and miscommunication. Dr. Marshall pushed us, challenged us, held us accountable when we slipped back into old habits. And we did slip sometimes. Rebecca would defer to me too much on decisions, falling back into passivity. I'd withdraw emotionally when I felt unappreciated, reverting to my silent martyrdom. But we caught ourselves faster now, called each other on it, worked through it. The financial arrangement we'd created held. Rebecca paid her share of expenses from her new salary. We had separate accounts for personal spending, a joint account for household costs. Complete transparency, complete autonomy. It worked. Patricia tried to contact Rebecca exactly 17 times during those 6 months. Texts from unknown numbers. Letters that Rebecca returned unopened. Messages passed through Melissa, who Rebecca had also limited contact with. Even a surprise visit to our house that Rebecca handled by not answering the door. Each violation of the boundary made Rebecca stronger. Each time she didn't cave, didn't compromise, didn't let guilt override her needs, she became more certain of her choice. Donald kept in touch through occasional calls. He and Rebecca rebuilt their relationship slowly, carefully. Father and daughter, without Patricia's interference. They met for lunch monthly. They talked about art, about Rebecca's job, about things that had nothing to do with family drama. It was healing. On September 15th, exactly 6 months after Rebecca had mailed the letter, she sat down to write another one. This one took even longer than the first. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, staring at the blank page. "Do I offer an olive branch? Set new boundaries? Tell her nothing's changed? What do you want?" "I want a mother who can love me without controlling me, but I don't know if that's possible." "Then maybe start there. Tell her what you want. Let her decide if she can give it to you." So she wrote, "Dear Mom, 6 months have passed. I've spent that time building a healthier marriage, growing in my career, and learning who I am separate from your expectations. It's been the hardest and best 6 months of my life. I want to have a relationship with you. But it has to be different than before. Here's what I need. 1. Respect for my marriage. That means treating Daniel with kindness. No subtle digs, no comments about his background or his money. He's my husband and my partner, and if you can't respect him, we can't have a relationship. 2. Boundaries around visits and contact. I won't be coming to Sunday dinners every week. I'll visit when it works for Daniel and me, not on demand. And when I say I need space, you have to respect that without guilting or manipulating me. 3. No more financial entanglement. I pay for my own life now. I don't need or want money from you or Dad, and I won't be funding family events or expectations anymore. 4. Acceptance of my decisions, my guam, my marriage, how I spend my time. These are my choices. You can have opinions, but you can't treat me like I'm wrong for not doing things your way. If you can agree to these terms, I'd like to meet for coffee. Just us, in a neutral location. We can talk about what a limited relationship might look like going forward. If you can't agree to these terms, I understand. But I won't sacrifice my health and my marriage to maintain a relationship that hurts me. The choice is yours, Rebecca." She mailed it on a Monday. We both knew the response, or lack of one, would tell us everything we needed to know. Wednesday afternoon, Rebecca's phone rang. "Patricia." Rebecca looked at me. We'd agreed she could answer after the 6 months were up, but only if she felt ready. "I'm ready," she said and picked up. "Hello, Mother." "Rebecca." Patricia's voice was controlled, tight. "I received your letter, okay? These terms of yours, they're quite harsh. They're healthy boundaries. They feel like punishment. They're not. They're what I need to have a relationship with you that doesn't destroy me." A long pause, then, "I've been seeing a therapist. Did you know that?" No, Dad didn't mention it. I asked him not to. I wanted to tell you myself. Another pause. She's helped me understand some things about control, about how I've been with you girls, about how I treated Daniel. Rebecca's hand found mine, squeezed. She suggested I might have some tendencies toward being controlling, toward needing to manage everything and everyone around me. She said it probably comes from my own childhood, my own mother, but understanding where it comes from doesn't make it okay. No, Rebecca said quietly, it doesn't. I'm working on it, on being better, on recognizing when I'm trying to control situations versus actually connecting with people. It's hard. I'm not good at it yet. I appreciate you trying. Your terms in the letter. Can I think about them? Can we meet and discuss them before I agree to anything? Rebecca looked at me. I nodded. We can meet, Rebecca said, but I need to be clear. These aren't negotiable. These are my boundaries. You can accept them or not, but I'm not compromising on them. I understand. How about Saturday? That coffee shop near the museum. 11 o'clock? Okay, I'll be there. After she hung up, Rebecca sat very still. She's in therapy, she said. I heard him. Do you think she's serious about changing? I don't know, but the fact that she's trying is something. It could all be manipulation, another way to get me to let my guard down. It could be, but you're strong enough now to handle it if it is, and if it's real, maybe there's hope. Saturday arrived. Rebecca was nervous in a way I hadn't seen in months. What if this is a trap, she said, changing her outfit for the third time. Then you walk away. You've done it before. You can do it again. What if she cries? What if she guilt trips me? Then you hold your boundary and leave. Rebecca, you've got this. You're not the same person you were 6 months ago. She can't manipulate you the way she used to. You're right. I know you're right. I'm just scared. Being scared and doing it anyway, that's courage. She kissed me. Will you be nearby, just in case? I'll be at the bookstore next door. Text me if you need me. So that's how we did it. Rebecca walked into the coffee shop at 10:58. I positioned myself in the bookstore with a clear view of the coffee shop entrance, and I waited. Patricia arrived at 11:02. I watched her through the window, an elegant woman in her 60s, every hair in place, designer handbag, the armor of wealth and control firmly in place. She saw Rebecca, hesitated, then walked over. I couldn't hear what they said, could only watch body language. Patricia sat down stiffly. Rebecca, to her credit, looked calm, grounded. They talked. Patricia gestured a lot, explaining, justifying, I assumed. Rebecca mostly listened, occasionally shaking her head or saying something brief. At one point, Patricia reached across the table for Rebecca's hand. Rebecca pulled back, set a boundary even in that small gesture. The conversation lasted 47 minutes. I know because I checked my watch obsessively, ready to rush in if Rebecca needed me. Finally, they both stood. No hug, no kiss, just a formal nod from Rebecca and a tight smile from Patricia. Rebecca walked out, saw me through the bookstore window, came in. How did it go? I asked her. Boy, I asked. Let's go home. I'll tell you everything. In the car, she said, she agreed to the terms. All of them. She apologized to me, actually apologized for how she's treated you, for trying to control my life, for the hospital thing, which she admitted was partly manipulative, though she claimed she really was stressed. Do you believe her? I don't know, but I told her that this is probationary, that we'll try having a limited relationship, maybe dinner once a month. And if she violates any of my boundaries, I'm done. No second chances. How did she take that? Better than I expected. She said she understood, that she'd rather have limited contact than no contact, that she'll prove she can respect my boundaries. How do you feel? Rebecca thought about it. Cautiously hopeful, but not invested. Like, if this works, great. If it doesn't, I'll be okay. I don't need her approval anymore. I don't need her to change for me to be happy. That's the difference from before. That is the difference. We drove home in comfortable silence. That evening, we had dinner with my mother, something we'd been doing monthly since Rebecca had started setting boundaries with her own family. My mom, who'd always been warm but never pushy, who'd given us space but offered support when asked. You look good, sweetheart, my mother said to Rebecca. Confident, strong. I feel strong, Rebecca said. Finally. That's my daughter-in-law. My mom smiled. The one I always knew was in there, just waiting to come out. After dinner, my mom pulled me aside while Rebecca was in the bathroom. I'm proud of you, she said, for standing up for yourself, for not accepting less than you deserved. I know it wasn't easy. It wasn't, but it was necessary. Your father would have been proud, too. He always said the hardest thing in marriage is being honest when honesty is uncomfortable. You did that. You both did. My father had died when I was in college, a heart attack, sudden and devastating. He'd been a quiet man, a good man, who'd loved my mother with a steadfast devotion I'd always aspired to. I wish he could have met Rebecca, the real Rebecca, the one she's becoming. I think he'd like her very much. That night, Rebecca and I sat on our back porch watching the stars come out. I've been thinking, she said, about what we want, long term. We've spent so much time fixing what was broken that we haven't talked about what we're building. What do you want? I want a life that's ours, not curated by my mother or defined by anyone's expectations. I want to travel, really travel, not just to places Patricia thinks are appropriate. I want to keep growing in my career, and I think I want kids, eventually, when we're ready. I want that too. Really? Really, I want to build something with you, a family, a life, all of it. We should make a list of places we want to go, things we want to do, dreams we want to chase. We've spent so long being reactive, dealing with crises. I want to be proactive now, building towards something instead of just surviving. So we did. We got a notebook and spent the next 2 hours making lists. Places, Japan, New Zealand, Iceland, experiences, learn to sail, take a cooking class in Italy, hike the Camino de Santiago. Goals, save for a lake house, mentor young professionals, maybe even start a nonprofit. Dreams that were ours alone. 2 weeks later, Patricia invited us both to dinner at a restaurant. Neutral territory, her treating. I was skeptical. Rebecca was cautiously willing. If she violates any boundaries, we leave, Rebecca said. Immediately. No explanations, no second chances. Agreed. Patricia was already seated when we arrived. She stood when she saw us, awkward and formal. Daniel, Rebecca, thank you for coming. Thank you for the invitation, I said, because someone had to break the ice. We sat, ordered drinks. The silence was thick with tension and unspoken histories. Finally, Patricia said, I owe you an apology, Daniel, a real one. Not the half-hearted acknowledgement I gave Rebecca, but a genuine apology. I waited. I treated you terribly, for years. I dismissed you, belittled you, excluded you. I made you feel unwelcome in your own marriage. And I did it all while benefiting from your generosity. That was wrong, deeply wrong, and I'm sorry. The words hung in the air. I searched her face for signs of manipulation, of insincerity, found only discomfort and what looked like genuine remorse. Thank you, I said. I appreciate that. My therapist helped me understand that I was threatened by you, by your relationship with Rebecca, by the fact that you were taking her away from me, or what I saw as taking her away. Really, she was just growing up, but I couldn't see that. I could only see that I was losing control. You were losing control, Rebecca said quietly. That part is true. I know, and I'm trying to make peace with that, with not controlling everything, with letting you live your own life. Patricia looked at me. I'd like to start over, if you were willing, not to erase what happened, but to build something new. What would that look like? I asked. Monthly dinners, like this, with both of you, where I listen more than I talk, where I respect your boundaries, where I treat you like the son-in-law you have always deserved to be treated as. I looked at Rebecca. She nodded slightly. We can try, I said, but Patricia, this has to be real, not a performance, not a temporary thing to get Rebecca to let her guard down. Real change, oh my. I understand and I know I have to prove it, that words aren't enough anymore. The dinner that followed was stilted at first, but gradually, carefully, conversation flowed. We talked about Rebecca's job. Patricia actually listened, actually asked questions without trying to steer Rebecca towards something different. We talked about my business. Patricia showed genuine interest instead of barely concealed disdain. It wasn't perfect. There were moments when I could see her fighting the urge to criticize, to control, to redirect. But she fought it, and that effort, visible as it was, meant something. As we were leaving, Patricia said to Rebecca, "I'm proud of you, for your quote, for your marriage, for being brave enough to set boundaries even when it was hard." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Mom. That means a lot." They hugged, brief, awkward, but genuine. In the car afterward, Rebecca said, "Do you think she can really change?" "I don't know, but I think she's trying, and that's more than she was doing before." "I'm not letting my guard down." "Good. Don't. Trust is rebuilt slowly. Let her earn it back." "I will." The months that followed brought a new normal. Monthly dinners with Patricia, carefully monitored and boundaried. Regular lunches with Donald, who'd become an unexpected ally and friend. Limited contact with Melissa, who was struggling to accept the new family dynamic but slowly coming around. And through it all, Rebecca and I kept building. We took a trip to Japan in November, 2 weeks of temples and mountains and food we'd never tried before. Rebecca threw herself into the experience with a joy I'd never seen in her during our previous family-mandated vacations to appropriate destinations. "This is ours, Edie. I had kept saying, "This trip is ours." In December, the museum promoted her to Associate Director of Development, a title that came with a substantial raise and real authority. "I did this," she said when she told me. "Not because of my family connections or my mother's influence, because I worked hard and was good at my job. I actually earned this." "You did. I'm so proud of you." "I'm proud of me too." Christmas was delicate. We spent Christmas Eve with my mother. Christmas Day, we visited Patricia and Donald for a few hours, carefully timed, carefully boundaried. When Patricia started to make a comment about how Rebecca's dress was perhaps a bit casual for Christmas, Rebecca immediately stood up. "I think we should go," she said calmly. Patricia backtracked. "I'm sorry, that was inappropriate. Please stay." Rebecca sat back down, boundary enforced, lesson delivered. On New Year's Eve, Rebecca and I stood on our back porch at midnight, watching fireworks in the distance. "A year ago," she said, "we were barely speaking, sleeping in separate rooms. I was still going to Sunday dinners and letting my mother run my life. And you were, what were you doing?" "Planning my escape, building spreadsheets, preparing to blow up our marriage to save it." "Did you think we'd make it?" "Honestly, no. I thought you'd choose your mother, choose comfort over change." "But I didn't." "No, you didn't. You chose us. You chose to be brave." "We both did." The fireworks exploded overhead, bright and temporary against the dark sky. "I love you," I said, "the real you, the one you're becoming." "I love you too, the real you, the one I should have seen all along." We kissed as the clock struck midnight, two people who'd almost lost everything and found each other again. Not because it was easy, not because it was comfortable, but because we'd finally learned that silence, the kind I'd hidden behind for years, the kind Rebecca had used to avoid conflict, was its own kind of violence. And speaking up, setting boundaries, demanding better, that was love. The truest kind of love. The kind that costs something, that requires something, that transforms everything. In February, we got the call from Dr. Marshall. "I think," she said during what would be our last session, "that you've done the work. Both of you, you've identified the patterns, broken them, built new ones. You communicate. You hold each other accountable. You've transformed your marriage." "So we're cured?" Rebecca asked, half joking. "You're never cured. Marriage is ongoing work. But you have the tools now. You know how to handle conflict, how to speak up before resentments build, how to prioritize each other without losing yourselves." "Thank you," I said, "for everything, for pushing us when we needed it." "You pushed yourselves. I just held up a mirror." We left her office hand in hand, ready for whatever came next. And something did come next. In March, Rebecca sat me down one evening with a serious expression. I have something to tell you. My heart stopped. Okay, I'm pregnant. The world tilted, righted itself, tilted again. You're what? Pregnant, about 8 weeks. I know we said we'd wait, but I stopped being careful and I didn't tell you because I wanted to see if it would even happen, and I kissed her, cut off her nervous rambling with a kiss that said everything I couldn't articulate. When we finally broke apart, I said, "We're having a baby. We're having a baby. Are you happy? Are you ready? I know we said we'd wait longer, but I'm terrified and ecstatic and completely unprepared and absolutely ready." She laughed through tears. Me too. All of it. Have you told your mother? Not yet. I wanted to tell you first. To make sure you knew that you are my priority. You and this baby, not her. Thank you. We told Patricia the following week. At a restaurant, public and boundaried, she cried, happy tears for once. I'm going to be a grandmother, she said. You are, Rebecca said, and we're going to need you to respect boundaries even more now. Because I won't raise my child the way I was raised. I won't teach them that love means control. I understand. I'll do better, I promise. And maybe she would, or maybe she wouldn't, but it didn't matter as much anymore. Because Rebecca was strong enough now to protect our child from the patterns that had hurt her. We were strong enough, together. The baby arrived in October, a girl healthy and perfect, with Rebecca's eyes and my stubborn chin. We named her Sophie, after my father's mother, a woman I'd never met but who my dad had always described as fierce and kind in equal measure. Patricia held her and wept. But when she tried to give unsolicited advice about feeding schedules, Rebecca calmly took Sophie back. Thank you, Mom, but we're figuring this out our own way. And we did, messily, imperfectly, but together. One night when Sophie was 2 months old, I stood in her nursery watching her sleep. Rebecca came in, wrapped her arms around me from behind. What are you thinking, she whispered. That I almost gave up, almost walked away, almost let the silence win. But you didn't. Neither did you. We saved each other, she said. We saved ourselves first, then each other. Is that how it works? I think so. I think you have to be willing to save yourself before anyone else can join you. Sophie stirred in her sleep, making the small noises that meant she'd wake soon, hungry and demanding. Our turn, Rebecca said. Our turn, I agreed. And together we walked toward our daughter, toward our future, toward the life we'd almost lost but had fought like hell to keep. Not perfect, never perfect, but real and ours. And enough, more than enough. 3 years later, the package arrived on a Tuesday. Rebecca brought it in from the porch, looking puzzled at the return address. It's from my mother. We'd maintained our monthly dinners with Patricia. She'd mostly held to her promises, slipping occasionally, catching herself, apologizing, learning slowly how to be a mother instead of a manager. But we'd never let our guard fully down. Inside the package was a leather-bound journal and a letter. Rebecca opened the letter first. Rebecca and Daniel, my therapist, suggested I write down everything I wish I'd done differently with you girls. All the ways I controlled instead of connected. All the times I prioritized appearances over authenticity. All the love I couldn't show because I was too busy trying to maintain control. It filled this entire journal. I'm giving it to you not as an apology, though it is that too, but as a map. A guide to all the patterns I'm still working to break. So that when you see me slipping, when you notice me trying to control or criticize or manage, you'll know it's not about you, it's about me, and you can call me on it. And so that you can avoid these same patterns with Sophie. Break the cycle I couldn't break with you. I love you both. I'm still learning how to show it in ways that don't hurt. Mom. Rebecca flipped through the journal, page after page of Patricia's careful handwriting. Confessions, regrets, insights. She's really trying, Rebecca said, wonder in her voice. She is. Do you think people can really change? Fundamentally? I thought about it. About the man I'd been. Silent, accommodating, slowly drowning. about the man I'd become. Boundaried, honest, alive. I think people can change if the cost of staying the same becomes unbearable. For me, the cost was our marriage. For your mother, the cost was losing you. Some people need to hit bottom before they can climb back up. Sophie toddled into the room, her favorite book clutched in her chubby hands. Read, Daddy. I scooped her up. All right, princess, let's read. Rebecca watched us, one hand on her still flat stomach. She was pregnant again, 8 weeks the same as last time. A boy we'd learned last week. I want to teach them differently, she said. I want them to know that love doesn't mean sacrifice, that boundaries are healthy, that you can be kind without being accommodating to the point of erasure. We will. How do you know? Because we learned it the hard way, and we won't let them have to learn it that way too. That evening, after Sophie was in bed, we sat together on our back porch, the same porch where we'd made plans and lists and dreams, where we'd rebuilt our marriage from the foundation up. Do you ever regret it? Rebecca asked. The spreadsheet, the confrontation, the way we almost destroyed everything to save it? Every day, and never. That doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. I regret that it had to come to that we let things get so bad that nuclear options felt necessary, but I don't regret the outcome. The marriage we have now, the people we've become. Me neither. A shooting star streaked across the sky. Rebecca made a wish, silent and private. What did you wish for? I asked. That's cheating. Tell me anyway, she smiled, that we keep choosing each other every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's not a wish, that's a choice, and I choose it every day. I choose us. So do I. And in the quiet that followed, not the silence of avoidance, but the peace of understanding, we sat together under the stars, two people who'd learned the hard way that the only thing worse than speaking up is staying silent. That love requires courage. That change demands discomfort. That sometimes you have to be willing to lose everything to find out what's really worth keeping. We'd been willing, and we'd kept each other. That was enough. It would always be enough.